most of my presentation will be focused on Indian culture situation and what else can we do to improve on the production costs. So, so to introduce myself, as my friend explained earlier, I am Mohan Talluri. I'm basically a microbiologist and into shrimp aquaculture for the past 22 years. So out of that 17 years, I was with CP Aquaculture, and later on, I was taking care of this SGS Aqua Solutions as technical director. So today I'm here to present you some of the information which I learned along with you. Some of my slides are even taken from a few experts, so that I thought I can understand. I mean, I can deliberate them in a most understanding way to my farmers in India. So let me proceed further. So is my voice clear?
Yes.
It's clear.
Yes, sir, clear.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it is clear.
Good. So today, the objective of my presentation would be just to get an understanding about the market situation, current market situation in India, and what are the situations we are facing, in what kind of diseases we are seeing nowadays, and what are the better management practices we can follow and we can improve upon to do in a better way at a most cost-effective way. At the end of this meeting, let us understand that we will come to an understanding that we can even control costs with better management practices. So that is my objective for today. Coming to the main presentation, so we all know this is the slide I have got from a Global Shrimp Conference, a very recent Global Shrimp Conference. So we have seen that in India, the production is always in the increasing trend for the past 10 years, like 2010 to 20, we can see the production is upward trend always. So year on year, we were in growth trend, but for the past 2 years, if you can see like 2021 and 22, there was a stagnancy, there was a stop. So probably because of higher diseases, what we are seeing, we have two major diseases like white spot, and we have also EHP. So we have two major diseases, and the production has come to standstill. And coming to this year 2023, as you all are aware, the prices are very, very less, and farmers are not at all accepting the situation. So the condition is very serious now, and farmers are not ready to go ahead with aggressive stocking. So we can expect a further downfall for 2023. Whereas one of our major big market, which is competing with India and which is doing well in the market, is Ecuador. So if we see some projections from Ecuador in their websites or in their conferences, we can see that year on year, they have given very good projections. Starting from 2021, they have given 29%, and later on with 2022, they have given 31%. So almost they have reached these figures, what we hear from other friends. So for the coming year, they have given huge production increases, like 14 to 15% every year, reaching around 2 million tons by 2025. So this is one alarming issue, because one of our friendly countries producing huge volumes, and India is also producing good volumes. So with all these volumes of material, who is buying this material? We have US as a major consumer. We have China too as a second consumer, but most of the material is going to US. What happened in the year 2021? There was a consumption of around 8.9 lakh metric ton by US consumer, and by the year 2022, it has reached almost 1 million metric ton. So they were able to consume whatever we produce till date. So it's like we have to depend on US or China for most of our material. So what happened? We can see that after COVID, generally most of the economists has really analyzed that post-COVID, the economy would be booming and all the industries are going to excel. But the situation is opposite. Post-COVID, nobody has expected this downfall. So there is severe economical crisis all over the world. We can see that US is going jobless. UK, there is a problem. And even China, there is a problem. And almost all the friendly countries, what we are talking about, they are facing severe economic downtrends right now. And another big problem is with war situation. There is energy crisis, and this war situation between Ukraine and production is at the higher trend. So it's like a bad time. So the times can change. So right away, today there is a problem, but this is not a permanent thing. So we have to understand that this is a temporary thing. So why I expect so is, so from the recent past, we can see that the trends are changing. Even though Ecuador has given huge projections for the next 3 years, but we can see that Ecuador shrimp prices are a bit less, and farmers are still not very happy. Same like in India. India farmers are complaining a lot about rising feed prices, rising input costs, and low material prices. Ecuador is no different. They too have the same problem. And very recently, even Ecuador government has stopped giving subsidy for diesel for large shrimp farmers. And I think this is going to also impact production from Ecuador. So it says that Ecuador projections may not really go ahead as projected. So from the recent global conference, we have an information stating that Ecuador has produced almost 1.3 lakh metric, 1.3 million metric ton for 2022, and the projections are only now 1.2 metric ton, 1.2 million metric ton. So the change, I mean, they have reduced their projections. So the same thing with India. Now we can clearly say the situation would not repeat as in 2022. Farmers are not very aggressive. They don't want to stock as in 22. The projections may reduce, and even I don't think this minus 14%. It would be much lower than projection here. So for Indian customers, I'm just trying to find what will be the longer, far and long-term solutions. So for us, we feel that domestic market, as in China, see, China has a very limited production, and whatever production they have to import also, because they don't have, they don't have enough material for consumption. So India is equivalent to China, and we need to consume our product so that we can have a strong domestic market too. And very recently, our farmer friends are working on this. All the processor stakeholders are really working on this. So soon or later, we will have a good domestic market. And my personal idea is we need to have good farmer cooperative processing plants, whereas in the nearby farming areas, like every 1,000 acres or 2,000 acres, we need to have a good processing plant operated by farmers. So that would be good. The third one is about government incentivized procurement, like any government organizations like Army, we say, or any departments. So that would be good for domestic market. And lastly, I have a proposal of having an integrated hub and mobile app to really bring the global trends, like what is happening in and around the world, how is the demand and supply things, and what would be the prices for the next coming season. So these are all very easy nowadays to develop a mobile app and put it in the hand of a farmer so that they can plan their crop accordingly. So here comes the dilemma. So the dilemma from the farmer is about, we can see that farmers are really disappointed. They're not too happy at all. So many farmers don't want to stock their ponds because their experience from the last crop is very bad. Most of the farmers have lost heavily. The prices have been drastically down. So they are emotionally in bad mode. And we know from all these figures, from all the regional understanding, we know that it is just because of oversupply and less demand. So for now, we are in like confusion, where the farmers are really in confusion whether to go ahead and bear the losses or to stop their production. For this, many farmers even today, they ask me, so whether to go and stock. So it's not very easy to suggest them to stock and push them that they can have better prices also. It's too difficult to say that, because nobody can really, we cannot expect what would be the prices in the future. So my understanding is every farmer knows what are his stakes, how much are his debts, how much manpower he has to take care. So many of my farmers, they are operating farms for the past 20 years. And most of the manpower are retained with them. So they can't just remove the manpower. So it is their ethical responsibility to keep manpower, to pay the salaries, and just to operate the farm. They have to still run the show. So for them, I leave the decision to the farmer, because he knows how much weight he is carrying. So whether he can proceed further or they have to stop here. So for them, I want to just ask them to slow down. So those farmers who want to stop, okay, that is for them. But those who want to proceed further, the situation is not really cool and good. So we need to have a slowdown. It is already happening in India. Most of the farms are not stopped. But what kind of slowdown? We have to go in a technical way. So what I suggest is, I have a suggestion called RRR. It's like a movie title, but not the same thing. So I have 3 R's to comment on today. So the first R is, we have to reduce many things. So first of all, what we have to reduce is, we have to reduce the extent of operation. Suppose a farmer operates around 10 ponds for the past 2 to 3 years. Let him come down. A farmer has to operate only 5 or 3 ponds. Based on that, he can provide service to his staff and he can run the show. At the same time, they can reduce densities also. The densities are not like earlier. We can't go for smaller sizes and higher biomasses. It doesn't work out in the same way. So we have to come down with densities so that we can improve our carrying capacity. And the third thing is about number of crops. It's not that how many crops we do. You do like 3 to 4 crops per annum, but you don't carry money home, it's no use. So we have to reduce our crops. 2 crops per annum is a really good thing with stable production. And we have to reduce expenses. Maybe we'll go ahead with this on our topic. And species. Those farmers who feel monodon is better, they can shift to monodon. If they see indicas as a better option, they can go, or fish, they can go to a fish farm. So they can change species for time being, and they can still be on the game. My second R is to restore. So once we reduce, we have to restore our preparations. Most of the farmers think that because the economy, the prices are very less, material prices are very less, they are not ready to prepare their ponds well, or they're not ready to invest on preparations. So we have to restore them. I will show you how these things are going to help us. So we have to restore our preparations, then we have to restore biosecurity and nurseries. So I don't suggest to have new nursery systems to invest on nurseries. Those farmers, whoever have nurseries in their farm already, has to restore them and restart them if they're not using them properly. And we have to restore our management and disease diagnosis. This is the key part which I want to focus on today. So you'll be learning them in the coming slides. So the next third R is revive. So once we do the first to reduce and restore, then we can go for revive. So we can have a better survival with all the things what I'm going to discuss now. And FCR, we can lower the FCR and health and growth performance of the shrimp. And the most important thing is about timely decision. So after disease management, I'm going to spend some time about timely decision. So I feel most of my farmers in and around my area, they lost money and crop just because they didn't decide to harvest the crop in time. So let us think about this, and let me talk more on timely decision. And ultimately, we can go for market recovery. So the first thing, so I'm talking more about diseases. So what are the major diseases I'm around us in India? The focus is on India. So we can see the first thing is white spot, and it is a disease. And the second one is white gut, white feces, that is a syndrome. And the third one is hepatopancreatic microsporidiasis, nothing but EHP disease. And the fourth one is vibriosis, that is also a disease. And the last one is random mortality syndrome. So if why I want to mention here is, we have 3 specific diseases and 2 syndromes. So these, why we call white gut or white feces syndrome or random mortality syndrome is because the causative agent is not really established. So once the etiology is not clear yet, I mean, it is under study, and there are many cases where multiple agents can cause, or different scenarios can cause a syndrome. So once the etiology is not established, we can't call it a disease. There are still syndromes. So once we don't know what is the exact causative agent of a syndrome, we can't really focus on exact solution for that, because there will be the solution also will be wider. We can't get in a packet solution, in a small packet solution. Yeah. So the next one, so coming to major pathogens around us. So now we have white spot that is caused by virus. The next one is that is a bacteria, and the third one is EHP, that is a fungus. So, three major diseases we are going to talk about, and caused by three major different pathogens. One is virus, one is bacteria, and one is fungus. So why I am talking about this today? So to prevent any disease, the biosecurity patterns must match their pathogen biology. See, farmers, earlier we had white spot. So many farmers, they can dry their ponds for a few days and then they can stock, they'll get good crops. But the same thing may not happen. I am coming there. So because virus is just a particle, either it is white spot virus or coronavirus or even AIDS virus, they're just particle and they die instantly within few hours or few days if they don't have any carrying host for them. And they can just easily killed after drying for prolonged period. Like they say, like 10 to 15 days you dry the pond, you may not see infective virus available in the pond. But whereas for EHP, you have to understand that this is completely a different organism. It is a fungal spore. And this spore doesn't need any host to survive. It doesn't need even moisture to survive. It can survive in the environment, in the soil, in water, and wherever. It can survive for years together. One of the documents says like more than 30 or 40 years, we don't know. It can survive for a prolonged period. So coming to this white spot, you know, this is not a new disease. We are facing white spot for the past 22 years. It's not a new disease, but still we are facing major problem. Last year, like 2022, we have lost major crop because of white spot. So how this horizontal transmission means from one farm to the other. So from the neighboring farm, it just spreads from one farm to the other. So how it is spreading, the pattern is, see, for example, this is my farm and I am having a very good biosecurity. And this is my friend's farm, neighbor's farm. And he is having an outbreak. I already mentioned here it is white spot, but let us consider an outbreak. Animals are dying and he's worried. And he doesn't do anything. And we take care of our farm with all care, like with proper biosecurity, birds carrying devices and everything. And even we are scared, we apply costly chemicals like triple salts to protect our farm. But shortly what happens is within a day, we'll see white spot in our farm also. So I'm very much disappointed. So I try to protect my neighboring ponds, like these 3 ponds I try to protect. So I will try to apply one more dose of triple salts or something. What happens is white spot may not spread to this particular pond. It may go to the different pond somewhere far away from the section. So this is the case, and if I still do the same thing without any change, I can see white spot in another pond, and in subsequent days, I can see in much more ponds, and within short, like 2 to 3 days, I can see that most 80% of my farm is affected. And in most of the cases, what happens is we see mortality, and we really don't know whether it is white spot or running mortality or what. So my suggestion is, you have a lab nearby or you have a rapid diagnostic test kit, you just check on the spot and decide first that it is white spot. So that will help you to really take care of the farm further. So first thing is diagnostic is very important. You don't go with blind eye. Blind eye can give very good information, but it will not confirm the disease. So how I'm going to answer this is, see, if in the same scenario, you have white spot in your neighboring farm, and you have a test kit with you, and you go and help him, you check. If it is positive, you ask him to close the pond. So based on the size of the animal, if the size is too small to harvest or market, he can kill the animals using chlorine. So once he kills the animal, once it is confirmed that it is white spot, you just protect the farm. You just close the pond with a good biosecurity measures like crab fence, bird fence, and spray some sanitizer around the pond so that no animals are getting attracted there. So and carry from that. So you do all this thing, and you can't say that our ponds are safe. You may see the same neighboring pond, even my pond also may get affected. But I follow a better protocol here. I do the same thing. If the size is small, I kill. If the size is big, I may have to harvest. but I have to protect this particular pond. I have to put enough manpower to protect this pond. So what kind of measures I take here? So that will help me to eradicate further contamination. So I will put an entire lockdown in the farm. I will not allow people to move here and there unnecessarily. Only for the feeding and general management, they can move. They can't go for small works like grass cutting or removing some scums and all. So we have to take care. You have to have a lockdown in your farm so that restricted movement only is allowed. Only feeding and aeration timings are allowed. Nothing, no other things move. Generally, you shouldn't even try to transfer water also. Pumping water, moving waters can carry diseases. So we just keep everything locked down for a while, like 2 or 3 days, which is like red light period. And after that, you can slowly rectify the things. So even you can have a continuous bird monitoring, and you can have an intermediate scaring. You can't scare with this gun every frequently, because once the birds are used to that sound, they don't care at all. So if they don't care, you can't scare them. So just you need to use it intermittently. You know the bird timing. Sometimes the birds can arrive in the early morning or late evening. So at that time, you need to have a protective device like this. And suppose the size is small and you kill the animals. So the next day, these animals can float on the surface. So you try to cover the corner of the pond in the wind direction, so that if there is any animal floating on the surface, becomes unacceptable, invisible for the bird, or it can't pick up from the pond, so that we can avoid further contamination. So, but if you have a pond of size, marketable size, it's always better to harvest, because each pond having 2 to 3 lakh of numbers, if you kill them and they start floating on the surface, it would be very difficult to control. So instead, you just, if the size is okay to be harvested, you can just harvest them, and you can ice them. So whatever you do a leak-proof harvest. I mean, there should not be water leaking. So in India, generally we carry harvested shrimp in bags. So these bags will get squeezed. So when we are traveling on the pond, when the bags are being carried on the pond, what happens is the water drips through the pond surface and it enters into the neighboring pond. So we have to have a closed harvest. You need to have a ice harvest so that nothing jumps out and no animal escapes and no water also drips in. And one more important thing regarding white spot control is restrict movement of harvest personnel. You may be very serious, your technical team and your farm team might be serious, but the harvesting team may not understand the seriousness of the disease. So what they do, they just drag the net and they put on the common bunds of other ponds, or sometimes they may have a few animals in the net and they just put it on the bund after harvest. So that is, those are the small things we have to notice what they are doing with the pond. And one more important thing is, once the harvest team arrives in the farm, in generally in India, what we do is we will provide them food. Not only them, even our farm staff, we provide them food, and you don't take the food properly, and if the hygiene is not properly maintained, you throw the food here and there, it will attract crows, especially crows. These crows, they don't know how to swallow the food properly. They just tear away the food. Either it is the food we throw, or if they get any dead shrimp from the net, they can just cut them and throw here and there. Sometimes they eat and sometimes they discard in the neighboring ponds, which is most critical factor for disease spread, especially for white spot. So the next coming thing is, we need to understand that this coming era is about gastrointestinal tract. So shrimp health, shrimp animal size is very small. Hardly it is like a bigger size is 20 to 30 grams. So it has a very small gastrointestinal tract, and it is prone to infection very fast, because it has a very low immunity. The immune capacity of the shrimp is very, very less. So we have to take care about what shrimp is eating and what it is excreting generally. So all the future infections can enter through gastrointestinal tract. All the existing problems also, we can see that most of the problems are associated with gastrointestinal tract. So once these infections enter, their target organ mostly is about hepatopancreas. So you all know, most of the farmers already know what is the importance of hepatopancreas. Hepatopancreas is one organ which can produce very good enzymes for digestion, absorption, and metabolism. It is the key organ for feed consumption, feed assimilation, and good growth of the animal. At the same time, it can store nutrients also. It is the organ which produce bile acids, so that would be helpful for the entire health status of the animal. So such a vital organ has become target for many microorganisms like EHP. So coming to EHP, we have to understand that this is a spore-forming fungus. This is a spore-forming fungus, and it is very resistant to harsh climates. Like you dry, like earlier I told you, dry the pond, it may not really die. So it can survive, it can resist harsh climates, drying periods. You dry for 1 year, 2 years also, it may still remain infective. So this spore is having a double wall, an exospore and endospore. So it is highly protected inside, and it is having a tube, coiled tube called polar tube. So with this polar tube, what happens is, if it once it finds the host cell is nothing but hepatopancreatic cell. So right away we just spoke about hepatopancreas, the importance of hepatopancreas. So that is the target organ for this particular dirty EHP. So once it finds that host cell, this polar tube is released. That is called polar tube extrusion. So once the polar tube extrusion is done, it sends the genetic material inside and it starts multiplying in the host cell, in the hepatopancreas. So in the real time, what happens is the hepatopancreas, in the earlier picture, we have seen that it is very green, very dark and good colored. And here you can see that hepatopancreas has become pale and shrunken. So you can see once the hepatopancreas is become weak, and it is a hub for many spores. You can see the electron micrograph of EHP spores lying inside that reserve cells of hepatopancreas. This is the real supplier of nutrients for the animal. So once these particular cells are affected and these spores reside in the hepatopancreatic cells, really the digestion and assimilation of the shrimp suffers, because this particular EHP doesn't have mitochondria. So to understand, mitochondria is the energy cell of its organism. So if they don't have mitochondria, they cannot have their own energy. So they have to depend on their host. Here that host is shrimp. So they have to derive their energy, entire energy from the shrimp hepatopancreas only. So even sometimes you see that the shrimp is eating good, it looks active, but the energy is being drained out by EHP. So we are talking about EHP, and in India we have problems like random mortality. So simply we call it as RMS, and we do have white feces syndrome, and EMS. Yes, we don't have in India, but many other countries suffered with this EMS, early mortality syndrome. So other than EHP, we have to talk about one more important pathogen called Vibrio. Vibrio, this is a common pathogen. I mean, it is a common bacteria which always stays in the environment, which really survives in the environment, but sometimes it can become opportunistic and it can become pathogenic also. Other than this Vibrio, recent document says that there are some rickettsias, spiroglasmas, lactococcus, and many other bacteria targeting hepatopancreas and gut health. So coming to this, once all these kind of secondary infections, we don't know whether they're secondary or primary. So once all these pathogens commonly come and attack hepatopancreas, the hepatopancreas is a very small organ and it becomes very weak. So you can see that healthy hepatopancreas have these lobes, whereas the affected hepatopancreas can have constrictions. So it becomes very weak, and sometimes tubular melanization, as you can see that worst case of hepatopancreatic damage. So ultimately it leads to white gut, and it ends up with white feces. So how can this co-infection and mode of transmission happen with EHP? So you may have a healthy animal, you have tested the seed, you have bought these animals after testing and good preparation of your pond, but still we don't know what is happening around. So you can have a healthy shrimp, but these EHP spores can enter into the pond either way, like with water or with soil or with any host remained from the past crop, or unknowingly you have an infected animal in your population. So once this EHP entered into the pond, it enters into the hepatopancreas of the animal. Like I explained you earlier, it sits in the hepatopancreas and start utilizing energy from the hepatopancreas. So The next stage would be like it will bring an entrance ticket for these secondary pathogens. It's not secondary exactly. So these pathogens, like earlier I told, Vibrios, Rickettsias, and whatever. So they reside in the water as normal flora. So they can grow in water as normal flora. But once the hepatopancreas becomes weak, once the animal becomes weak, either because of EHP or any other infection, these suddenly they become opportunistic pathogens, and they start doing their own damage to the animal. So how this damage is going to affect is they kill the hepatopancreatic cells. So once the dead hepatopancreatic cells are excreted through the intestine, you can see the gut turning to white. So a lot of hepatopancreatic cells and these lipids are being drained from the body. Energy is being drained from the body in the form of white gut. And ultimately, you can see white feces. White feces floats above the water just because it is having a lot of lipids and vacuoles inside, trapped inside. So the white gut excretes as white feces. This white feces is nothing but a lot of spores and bacteria, and these dead hepatopancreatic cells must be floating above the water. So ultimately, if it is left unnoticed, so the animal ultimately becomes very, very weak. The infection becomes very strong, and they may turn to loose shell, and they are severely discolored. And if it is not attended properly, they may die also. So, but this particular mortality is, I call it undercurrent mortality, because we don't see this mortality because these shrimps doesn't come to the buns. They don't swim. They don't show any sign of infection, but they die inside. You can see that 1 or 2 animals coming to the check tray. Sometimes when you are throwing a net, you can see suddenly 1 or 2 animals. So you think that there is a little mortality, but there is undercurrent mortality. It can affect our performance. So it is established that EHP can spread through fecal-oral route. That means by consuming the fecal matter of the infected animal, a healthy shrimp can get infected very fast. And the cycle, for this entire cycle, it will take around 1 to 3 weeks. So for a healthy animal to get infected and show the symptoms and ultimately leading to death, it may take 1 to 3 weeks. So this time we may have to lose like 5 to 10% of survival. And this kind of mortality is not visible in general. So we don't see like a white spot, huge mortality is coming, or a large mass of animals swimming around. So it looks like everything is normal. We may find 1 or 2 dead animals, but ultimately we will be losing like 5 to 10% survival for every 3 weeks. This may vary like 1 to 3 weeks. So here are few symptoms like no growth or stunted growth. Mostly size variation is the key vector. So if you have continuous drop in feed intake, so generally we assume that at 10 gram size, it has to eat like 38 to 40 kilos. And it is not even eating like 20 kgs for almost a week. We have to really consider that something is wrong, and we have to go for an EHP test. And normal size variation and loose shell. I think most of our farmers are well aware of this. If we have seen a lot of variation starting from the seed level and in the farm level, and early loose shell within like 30 or 40 days, if you find, you have to suspect and get it confirmed from the laboratory. So when you open, you can see that the hepatopancreas is pale and shrunken, and you can see a lot of white gut and white feces floating around. This white feces can arrive very early if it is infected with EHP and subsequent bacterial infections. You can see white feces like within a period of 30 to 40 days. So that is one very critical symptom to be noticed. So this severe white feces, see, this animal is very clear. One looks healthy and the other one is badly affected by Vibrios. So we tested this particular animal in our lab, and we found a lot of green colonies developing from this blood. So this kind of animals can really affect the pond performance. So random or most of the documents suggest that there is no mortality for EHV, but if not attended properly, we may see mortality. We may not see mortality, but we will lose survival ultimately. So once you harvest, once you prolong your culture for a longer time, you may lose survival by more than 60%. A few cases it happened, like we lost heavy survivals also. So to prevent this, to avoid this kind of problem, what we have to do is we have to observe what is feed consumption. So we shouldn't go away with what exactly the supervisor or worker says. sometimes we have to personally go and notice by ourselves whether the feed consumption is really, I mean, you expect that the feed consumption today must be like 40 kgs, and you see from the check tray whether it is really consuming or not. So you try to identify. Sometimes there is no feed, you have to find fecal matter in the check tray. So if you don't find feed and fecal matter in the check tray, so it must be washed away by aerator current also. So we need to make sure that either we have to see feed or fecal to confirm that the feed is accepted properly. And you go for a frequent sampling to understand the behavior of EHP. So you check the growth performance, and based on that, we have to make a good decision. So I am going to present you the important slide for me today. So I have 6 parameters highlighted here. The first parameter is about feed consumption. So once you have EHP infection in your pond, so we have to consider 6 major factors how we are going to handle further. So the first thing is feed consumption, and second one is periodic growth, like weekly growth, and the third, white feces, white gut, loose shell, mortality, and then we have to analyze the situation to make a decision. So my first case is, if the feed consumption in your pond is good, you know that the pond is affected with EHP already, you have tested with PCR and it is positive. But if the feed consumption is still good, it looks like some genetics of animals are still able to tolerate this and they're eating good. So if the feed consumption is good and weekly growth is also good, I mean, if you expect like 2.2 grams per week, and if it is still 2 grams is okay. So if the weekly feed consumption and growth is good, and there is no white feces or no mortality or loose shell observed, and you consider this situation as very normal and no need to worry, even you have an EHP positive seed in your pond, you can just continue further for the time for the next 10 days or so. So my second case is feed consumption is less. I mean, you expect like 30 to 35 kgs of consumption, but it is not going beyond 20 kgs. You need to take this into account. Then you go to see how is the weekly growth. If the weekly growth is also less, like if you expect like 2 grams, but if your weekly growth is only 1.5 gram. So because your feed intake is less, your weekly growth is also less. You don't have any white feces or you don't have any loose shell or mortality. You still can analyze your situation as normal and you just continue further. But you need to observe carefully for next 2 weeks how this is going to behave. Whether the situation is same, you have less feed, you have less growth, you may lose DOC, your ADG may be less, but still you can proceed further. I have a third case in which feed consumption is less, but growth is good. So this is one case we need to understand properly. So where from this growth is coming? If there is no real feed intake, still it is growing. And you have a case of white gut or white feces appeared in the early days, but nowadays it is not seen. So like I have seen this white feces somewhere around 30 days, 32 days, but later on I didn't notice that. So because I think that I used some medicine and the white feces has disappeared, and you don't see any loose shell or mortality. You must expect that you are losing survival. As my previous slide told you, after one cycle, you may have a repeat white feces once again. But meanwhile, you may lose like 5 to 10% survival. So that's why even your animal is not eating, it is still growing. So what happens is you just analyze the market. So if your size is 50 count and it works out for you, if you are losing like 5% of survival by another 10 days, but you can reach a better market size and better price, you can wait. But this is, you have to decide properly by discussing with your technical staff. And there is a fourth case in which feed consumption is good, but weekly growth is very, very less. And same case, you have white spot earlier, but it is right now it is not there, and you don't have any loose shell or mortality. So you have to consider that your FCR is going to be high because feed consumption is very high. The energy must be cleaned out by EHP or any other pathogens. So it is not feed conversion is not being properly done, and it is not converted to the growth. So what happens is your FCR may shoot up. So you have to again work out. If even though my FCR shoots like from 1.3 to 1.6, Is it worth for me? Does it work for me? Is the market situation really helpful for that? So based on that, again, you have to decide whether to harvest immediately or you have to wait for a better size. I have a fifth case in which feed consumption is less, but period growth is good. And you have serious, moderate to high white feces and moderate to high loose shell and mortality. So this case, we have to see that you have lost a lot of survival in the pond. As I told in the earlier slide, you must be losing like more than 20 to 30% of survival. That's why even though it is not eating properly, it must be growing healthy. So we have to harvest it at the earliest, because you wait for another 2 weeks, you may lose another 10 to 20% of survival. So this is the case where most of the Indian farmers have lost their crops, lost money from their crops, because they're seeing good growths and they expect very good harvest. But ultimately, once we plan for a 5-ton harvest, we were able to harvest only like 2 to 3 tons. So this is one of the bad case. And I have another case in which feed consumption can be any, it can be high or low, doesn't matter, but period growth is less. So whether it is eating or not, but you don't have any growth and you have white feces very severe and loose shell very high, at that time you are going to lose both survival, and if your FCR is also going to shoot very, very high. This is the most worst case and you have to have an emergency harvest. My suggestion is, if this is the case and you understand it today, you have to harvest on immediately by tomorrow. This is the worst case. So I categorize them into 3. The first one is the blue. So in this period, you have to discuss with your technician and things are going as per your way. So you can just proceed further based on technical help from your staff. The second one is you have to be very alert. Things can go anyway, it can become worse also. So you have to be very alert here, and all your analysis must be true. If you think that consumption is good, it must be good. If you think that growth is also coming good, it must be good. So if you are in this phase, you have to be very, very observative on your pond. And the last one is the bad phase, and this is the worst phase where farmers have to make immediate decision. I request all my farmer friends and technical team, whoever is here, can give me feedback later on. But this particular data, this particular guidelines can help you to make correct decision and to prevent losses from your farm, which are infected with EHP. This information can be much helpful for you for planning your harvest properly. So coming back to our presentation, so we should understand what are the infection channels for EHP. So soil, yes, if you have EHP in your past crop, your soil, your own pond soil can carry further. Water can carry from the past crop. Most of the farmers prefer to have stocking in the same water, same carryover contamination can happen. And the foremost thing is seed. Seed is much more important, even though most of the hatcheries are aware that seed also can carry. But testing, we have to concentrate on testing the seed appropriately. So most of the farmers even feel that all their environment is good and all this disease is coming only from seed. It's like both way. We can't say that whatever disease EHP in the farm is coming only through seed. We have very bad experience just because of very good seed and very bad water or soil in our pond. And feed in the sense like live worms, polychaete worms, which they feed them in the hatchery. So there is a chance that EHP can enter, and it is the only source of pathogen entry for SPF broodstock. And carriers can be like passive carriers. You can have bivalves, you can have snails in the pond, and some of unknown carriers, they can still passively carry EHP spores on their bodies. So coming back, we have to have a good pond preparation to avoid all these things. So I will stick to the basics. So don't go with the same water, same pond crop. So it is always preferred to have a good drying period. So if you dry, especially coming season, we have summer like March 30th to June 30th or July 15th, we'll have very good spell of sunlight. We have to utilize the sunlight properly so that our ponds can really oxidize and they can dry well. So this is the most important thing. One important thing here is EHP cannot be killed by long drying. It cannot be killed completely, but we can try to the maximum extent. After that, you have to plow and you have to remove that surface soil. You have to scrap the sludge and surface soil out of your premise. We can't simply dump this surface soil onto the dikes. Most of my farmers in our area, what they do is they do a reverse blade and put soil on the dike sides. So what happens is you have spores in the soil and they remain on the inside the pond. They can come back to the pond at any time. So no point of having soil on the dike sides. You have to remove them out of the premise wherever is possible. After that, we have 5 different chemicals or theories to really handle EHP. So the first and foremost thing, well published and well circulated chemical is calcium oxide or burnt lime. So burnt lime can really rise the pH, and with high pH and low pH, we can handle EHP, we can eradicate EHP. So burnt lime, but once you choose burnt lime, it would be very expensive. Like you have to apply around 6 tons per hectare. So it would be costing you around 36,000, almost 6 rupees per kilo. It should be costing you 36,000 per hectare. So be careful when you are choosing your burnt lime. That burnt lime must be really of high grade and good quality. So check the pH before you use. The next, and its sister chemical is caustic soda or sodium hydroxide. Both are one and the same. It is relatively cheaper and you can use it in lower quantities, but it can rise pH of up to 13.2. And you have another 2 chemicals to reduce pH, like hydrochloric acid. It is very effective to reduce pH, and even the lowering pH in the pond can also help to eradicate EHP. And 40 ppm of chlorine also can eradicate EHP. Another 2 chemicals are formalin and potassium permanganate. So I have total 5 chemicals for you. So you can choose amount, but each and every treatment costs around 5,000 to 6,000 per acre. So you choose one chemical, you choose 5,000 for an application. So based on our experience, we have to select what all chemicals to be used. Here I suggest, coming slides, I'm going to suggest you, if you choose to apply burnt lime, you dry the pond properly and you do all the preparation thoroughly. And after that, you apply burnt lime around 6 tons per hectare. So once you do liming application, you have to moist that lime so that the pH rises. So EHP can be eradicated at high pH and low pH, and high temperature and low temperature. So once we know that we have to rise the pH about 12, we have to really activate the burnt lime after application. This is very, very important because burnt lime is the most expensive treatment to be done. And most of the farmers are following this. So we have to take care that we have to activate burnt lime by moistening them while applying. So check the quality of burnt lime. This must be very, very important. You have to check before you are using or you are just buying from the yard. This is the most important thing you can do. You just take an pH kit with you and check that whether it is crossing 10.2 or not. So if your pond, you know that your last crop is very bad and you have a serious EHP infection and you want to do further treatment, I suggest you to go for chemical treatments, which are very harsh. I don't outright suggest every farmer to use these treatments, but under extreme cases, you don't have any other option. You have to go for these harsh treatments like sodium hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide is around 4,000 ppm. You have to spray all over the pond. All over the pond in the sense that solution has to reach around 4 to 6 centimeters deeper into the soil. So this is the most difficult task. Handling sodium hydroxide is very, very difficult. Your workers must be complaining without proper protective gloves. They can't do this. So it is very corrosive. So people will complain and it is not advisable on an open platform to do this. But if you have no other choice and if you want to do this, you do with utmost care, and you have to apply 4,000 ppm sodium hydroxide throughout the pond. So how to make 4,000 ppm? You take 1 ton of water and add 4 kgs of caustic soda. It will become 4,000 ppm. 4 kgs of caustic soda, and you apply. So if you finish that 1 ton, you have to keep on adding so that almost around 100 to 150 kgs of caustic is consumed per acre. The same thing you have to repeat on the next day. Once you do caustic, the soil pH is very, very high. and you have to bring it back to normal or neutralize it, you have to use acid. Acid works either for neutralization, and at the same time it helps also to reduce EHP infection, because low pH also is much more helpful. Whereas acid, HCl, hydrochloric acid, is the cheapest source to do this job. It is only like sometimes you'll get less than 5 rupees per liter. So you use the same quantity, like 4 liters per ton of water, it is 4,000 ppm, and apply all over the pond. And additionally, if you can apply like a high grade chlorine, 70% or 65% high grade chlorine, around 4 kgs per ton of water, and spray all over the pond, that acts as a double shot. Like you have caustic soda, you have hydrochloric acid, and you have chlorine treatment. So all these three are very, very highly caustic and really damaging the soil. It's not really necessary to do this unless you have serious problem in your pond. So we know that we intentionally damage the soil by applying harsh chemicals like lime, caustic acid, whatever. We need to replenish our soil with proper organic composts. We know that our soil has been denatured by our chemical application. So we have to add some of the organic composts and mineral mixtures to bring back to normal. And those ponds which don't have proper drying availability, I mean, most of the farms in and around West Godavari, even in my area, we don't have an option to dry our ponds because of seepage from the neighboring farms or what, many reasons. So in that case, we suggest you have to go with wet preparation. In that case, you can choose either formalin or potassium permanganate, preferably potassium permanganate, around 12 kg of potassium permanganate per acre, up to 1 feet depth. So you have to put water in your pond, but water should be minimal so that only the bottom is full, bottom is wet, and in that you apply potassium permanganate throughout the pond. Or you can choose even 100 liters of formalin, you can apply throughout the pond. Even these two chemicals are going to be very expensive. It's not so simple. And one more thing is, dry treatment is far better than wet treatment, because the soil can really absorb the chemical and it can be much more functional. Whereas wet treatment, because the soil is already saturated with water, it may not really absorb all the chemicals, whatever you dump in. So preferably you have to go for dry treatment, and in circumstances you don't have any choice. So this would be a second choice. Both ways, nobody can assure you that you can kill 100% of the spores. You can only kill like 70 to 80%. But we have to do this to prevent contamination for the coming crop. You can also do acid and chlorine. This is the much better version. If you have acid, like you 100 to 150 kilos of liters of acid per acre, and you just use chlorine like 40 ppm. So it would be much more effective also. So next important point is about seed selection. This is also very important, because most of the farmers are now accustomed to have 80 or 70% survival. So we are very much particular about this. To improve your production cost, to have a better crop, you need to have better seeds so that your survival should be higher than 90%. 80% and 70% are no more acceptable. We need to have a better survival, and for that we need to have a better seed, and better seed. So we have to choose the right PL stages for stocking, because smaller PLs are not ready, they can't survive properly. So in the lab, we have these parameters like length, size variation, and we can estimate. Actually, true estimation comes only from the hatchery technician. But from the lab, we can, from the spines here, we can estimate the PL size. And I suggest you, all the farmers, to only choose PL about 10 for their stocking. And so that in the lab, we can see once the PL is about 10, we can see that the gills are completely developed. Once the gills are completely developed, you can expect better survival, because the oxygen carrying capacity increases, and animal also can tolerate these changes in the salinity and environment. It can better tolerate osmosis. So it is always suggestible to have PL 10 and above. So you go through the microscope, you can see that you must have a clean and clear muscles, and muscle gut ratio must be above 4:1. And this is one important thing we observe on the microscope. The hepatoparenchyma must be full and full of lipids, and the lobes must be full and clear. You should not have any abnormalities like this, empty tubules or tubular constrictions. These are not acceptable. And you see for fouling and necrosis, you see these are some protozoans, epistylis, or some protozoans attached here. And necrosis also, you can see the parts not cut. So if these things are continuing into the farm, they can reduce survival, because if the protozoans reside on the body, animal can't molt properly. So you may lose survival because of improper molting, and a lot of damage to their appendages also can kill the animal. So these are all you have to observe under microscope only to understand whether you have a better survival or not. So additionally, you have to go for stress tolerance, like salinity stress, formalin stress test, whatever. You have to check from the lab whether the vibrios are present in the animal, any luminescent bacteria are present in the animal. So because earlier, once we are doing with monodon, we don't bother. I mean, we used to check all these things. But after Vanami arrived, people are blindly going because it is like SPF. We have many farmers testing their seeds, but most of them believe that SPF doesn't have any disease. SPF rootstock and SPF seed is, the status is confined only in SPF premises. So once you bring to the hatchery and you rear them with live polychaete worms, these are the major culprits in the hatchery where EHP has entered through live polychaete worms. So they have to feed them in the hatchery. So this is the major source for entry. And from there, it can attach to the nople passively. And after the zoea stage, the mouth opens. These spores can enter into the animal mouth, and from there to the hepatopancreas, and it can come into the farm. So at any stage, it can get contaminated. You don't think that all the seeds produced from the hatcheries are SPF. There is SPF seed, but it has to be maintained under SPF status only to get an SPF seed. The hatchery should have an SPF facility complete. So even the transport vehicles, everything should be SPF. So it is not possible in India. So we have a chance of having contamination at any place. And you can avoid also by properly checking. We suggest hatcheries to check polychaete worms they feed, and we ask them to check their brood stocks. You can sacrifice, or if you can't sacrifice, you have to check their fecal matter. And we ask them even to check early PLs like 3 to 4. Many farmers believe that smaller PLs doesn't give any positive report. It is wrong. It is a myth. It can really be turned positive if you collect the sample properly. I'm going to further add on that. So you can really prevent this disease at any stage if you can have a proper check on that. So we have real-time PCR in our lab. We check white spot, EHP, IHHNV, whatever. But these three are the major pathogens. Out of that, we have to consider at least 2 white spot and EHP. We have to compulsory check. So this is our real-time amplification. What does this PCR does is, so if you can see, it starts the reaction, and if you find the target gene, I mean, if the real infection is available in the given sample, so it shoots it. So you can clearly see that the graph is rising, and once you see this, you can have the software will generate a CT value, which is inversely proportional to the target nucleic acid. That means the lower CT value, the higher is the disease. So if you have a CT value like around 16 or 17, that means you have very high pathogen load in the sample, so that your machine has detected it very early. So if it is detecting very late, like 33 or 32, it means that the infection level is very, very less, so that your machine has taken a lot of time to find the target DNA. So there are some confusions regarding PCR, because most of the farmers comment to us, we check PCR, but still we have got lost in the pond. So we have to really understand the concept of what is true positive and true negative. So the true negative means there is no disease at all in the tank, in the sample. So if you have a population like this, say for example, this particular picture is having 1 million of seeds, and you believe that you know that they don't have any disease in them. So you take n number of sample at any point of time and any point of place. You get all samples. You check any lab, you will get a true negative result. So there is no confusion from this kind of report. And if the prevalence of infection is very high, you see the same population, you have infected animals. I just quoted them pink. So you have a lot of infection. The infection prevalence is above 5%. You take sample from any point of the tank and any place and give in any lab, you may have a positive report, because the prevalence is very high. It is easily detectable by any machine. But the problem really comes with prevalence of less than 2%. If the prevalence in infected animals are very few, like 1 million is having only 200 infected animals, very few animals to be screened. So what happens? There lies the confusion. So you collect sample where there is no infected animal given, you may have a negative report, and the second sample also may have a negative report, but a third sample which really had that positive animal in that sample can turn positive, and the other can be negative. So unless you find this particular animal entering into your sample, even the machine or anyone can't help. So we need to have a right sampling method for right PCR detection. So what is the right sampling method? So you know how to cross-examine the PLs. You know that you put them in a tub and swirl them, all the active animals go around and the weak animals settle in the center. So you try to select weak animals from the centers and try to stress them more and more so that they become much more susceptible to disease, either EHP or white spot or whatever. So instead we need to have a biased sampling. You can't simply do the random sampling. So you take the weakest animal from the hatchery. We have to take help from the hatchery friends also to help the farmers to select the weakest animals from their tank so that it can be easily detected by PCR. So you try to take the weakest animal from the sample. At the same time, you can include, you can request the hatchery to give you a fecal settlement. It will add information for your report. So are we done with seed quality? Yes, we have covered most of the part, but one thing which we have not made very clear is about genetics. We have many lines of genetics available in India and their performance varies. Sometimes some genetics do well and some genetics don't do well. We have few ponds which tolerated EHP and white feces, and they have really performed well. Even though they are positive with EHP, they are performing good, which says that this particular animal is having some tolerance, and we have to, the genetic companies have to work on that to provide tolerant seed for our future farmers. So my next topic is about water preparation. We know this is the much more important subject regarding survival, because animals thrives in the water. It has to survive in the water. To grow in the water, we need to have a good water preparation. So even those in India, we have a lot of underground water ponds. So even I suggest for them also to maintain a reservoir. So if you have a reservoir, because these underground waters doesn't see any air, any sunlight or anything, they just try to come from abiotic zone to the biotic zone. We have to put them under sunlight and soil for a while so that they get exposed and become normal. So you maintain a reservoir for bore water. So based on the bore water parameters, you need to add some potassium permanganate or EDTA as per the recommendation. You need to have further treatment for creek waters. You may have to do like chlorination, potassium permanganate. So that is for creek water. So whatever treatment we do, we have to rejuvenate the phytoplankton and zooplankton. So my important suggestion here is, we know how to use fermented rice bran, FRB, but we have to rework this. We have to do it in a proper way and longevity way. We can't simply depend on a lot of commercial probiotics like application every week as a program. Now onwards, what we have to do is to control the costs of probiotic. We have to really brew them in our farm with proper infrastructure and facility. So this is my suggestion. I think you can copy this. I can share in media also. So I don't read all these things, but you brew them for 36 hours with proper aeration, and you cover them with, you cover the container, because you shouldn't directly put under sunlight or expose them to pathogens. You cover them not airtight. You have to, air has to pass in. So you just protect it properly. So after FRB, you need to have sea salt and minerals, essential minerals only to apply, because most of our waters must be lacking certain minerals. Like my area, it is lacking potassium. So we need to replenish our water with a lot of potassium. So every time you use potassium, we have to use sea salt also. Why we suggest sea salt is, this is the most cheapest and best mineral available on earth. So you go anywhere, you find a mineral, the basic is sea salt. So sea salt is a natural mineral balancer for shrimp, because shrimp grows naturally in the sea, and the sea salt has the right proportion of minerals. So coming to the next one, we can see that seawater is having all minerals in proper proportions, whereas Freshwater, if you can see, almost 0 ppt, if you see, all are in single digits. All the minerals are in single digits. Whereas seawater has the right proportion. So we need to really take care of minerals now. So how to take care? Not necessary that we have to apply a lot of minerals in the pond, but you see that ion ratios, so some particular ratios are very important. Like for example, calcium to potassium ratio must be 1. So you have to maintain this calcium and potassium ratio. At the same time, we have to maintain this magnesium and calcium ratio to. So considering these 3 minerals, we have to check from the lab what all minerals are available in the water, and whatever is less only we can replace them. The other minerals can be added by sea salt. So you have to customize your mineral application by proper analytical report. If you don't analyze and keep on applying minerals, it will add to your cost. It doesn't really help applying a lot of micro and macro minerals without properly testing your water. So I suggest water must be tested on regular basis. You don't consider, most of the farmers, what they do is they check water after like 15-20 days or after 1 month, and suddenly they have found some problem and they ask for a remedy. It is very difficult to solve to really change the parameters in such big volumes of waters in open air. And it is very difficult. So you can't use water reports as treatment methods. Only thing is you check your environment regularly, you monitor your environment regularly, you find, so that it will help us to plot what are the changes happening in our pond. So based on that, we can do proactively, we can do the changes proactively. So it can't really, water quality testing can't really help for an emergency or treatment purpose. So if you have a regular file of your water reports, it would really help to monitor and understand what are the changes happening, and we can foresee the problems also. So to avoid, we have to test them regularly. Next important parameter is biosecurity. So for us to understand biosecurity is any means you just try to protect your host from either crabs, birds, other crustaceans, humans, any pathogens entering your system. You do whatever device you provide to your host protecting, that is all biosecurity only. So what you have to do is you have to install proper crab fence. You use this cheapest net. This is available as used net. This we say like a disco net or simply a trash net. So this trash net is available for 40 rupees per kilo, and you just put them all around the pond. It's not that how high or how good you do it, but how efficiently you do it. So it can trap any unwanted animals entering into the pond. You do the proper crab fence so that it can trap anything entering inside. And you have to do this bird fence. If you want to save cost, you have to invest on these things. You have to maintain a proper bird fence. Bird fence must be done even to your drains or reservoirs or whatever. If it is your farm and your water, you have to cover with the fence. And this everybody knows, but we have to follow this strictly. We have to disinfect our foot and hand with potassium permanganate or iodine before entering to the pond and either while sampling. And I suggest all the technical staff, farmers and supervisors, you need to have this sterilizer in your pocket. So after COVID, it is very famous and familiar. It is available everywhere. So we have to have a personal hygiene. So we go from pond to pond. You may not use potassium permanganate efficiently, but you use this sterilization properly. It will, you use this alcohol properly. It helps in sterilizing your hand. Next important topic is about feed management. I know it is a large one. I'll try to simplify this. So my suggestion is you need to give more number of meals. So generally farmers believe that 4 meals are good enough. So if you have manpower or if you have very good staff to support you, you can have 5 or 6 meals also. Thereby you can cut down the ration. In general, for 4 meals, if you are giving like 30 kg per meal, you can just give only 20 kg per meal, but you can increase the ration. You can go up to 5 or 6 meals. So this will help because the animal intestine is very small. And even this auto feeder concept also has come here only. So they throw frequent feeding. So that helps a lot. So one more important thing is about check tray monitoring. You have to be very particular on this. Most of the farmers know this and do this, but we do some basic mistakes and try to cover them only here. So earlier we used to have more number of check trays, but nowadays most of the farms are having only 1 check tray. That doesn't really reflect what is happening in the pond. You have to increase the number of check trays 2 to 4 numbers, and checking time should be like 1.5 to 2 hours based on the season. Like in winter, you can have like 2 hours, but in a summer season, you can reduce it to 1.5 hours. So I suggest, this is my suggestion, you can have your own guideline. So based on the body weight, if your animal size is less than 5 grams, you can have up to 5 grams per kg feed per check tray. And as the body size increases, you can increase check tray feed like this at up to 8 grams, you can use 7 grams per kg feed. And above 8 grams, you can do 10 grams per kg feed. And more you can do 12 grams per kg feed. So once we do this monitoring, we have to be very strict about how we are monitoring the check tray. Those who have 4 check tray can follow this rule, and those who have only 2 check trays can take example from CTO, check tray 1 and check tray 3. So this is how I try to analyze. So if you feed them and check after 1.5 to 2 hours, all the check trays show nil, no feed, but you have a lot of fecal matter present in the check tray. So you can increase by next meal by 10%. So if you have 2 check trays left over with around 5 grams or 5% of feed, and the other 2 check trays are fully completed, you can just maintain the feed. It is like an easy understanding. Everybody has their own standard. It's not a benchmark, but at least it would be a guideline. People have to understand this, and based on this, they can have. So those who have only 2 check trays, you try to have 4 check trays, but if you don't have that facility, you take this. So one check tray is left with 10% and the other check tray is nil. So you can decrease by 10%. And the fourth case is 2 check trays are left with 10% and the other 2 check trays are left with 20% of the feed. You have to decrease by more than 40%. You have to abruptly decrease your feed next meal. And the last case is if the leftover feed in the check tray is by more than 20% and here it is more than 50%, you have to either stop the feed. It is always good to stop the next meal. So this can be an important guideline to have a proper check tray monitoring. So now we coming back to our gastrointestinal tract. All the infections are targeted at the gastrointestinal tract, especially with the hepatopancreas. You know, this is the most important organ for shrimp. So we need to have proper growth promoters in the market. There are plenty available, but I suggest farmer to use them wisely. You need to have a lot of probiotic bacteria to maintain the gut health. And you may have to add a lot of bile salts. So our hosts today, Lachance, they have their product which is having bile salts. So they suggest that these bile salts need to help the hepatopancreas, health of hepatopancreas. Yes, definitely we have to consider that. And there are immunostimulants, a lot of immunostimulants available, enzymes and vitamins. And finally, natural herbs and supplements we generally use from the kitchen. So you have to use a complex of items, or you have to select the best ones, whichever is available for you, so that you have to maintain healthy gastrointestinal tract. And finally, strictly no antibiotics at all, because there is no antibiotic which is really functional and useful for aquaculture animal like shrimp, because this shrimp eats very limited feed. You can't really administer antibiotic through feed, and it doesn't really work also. You don't apply antibiotic at any case, it doesn't help, and moreover it is spoiling the image of our product. So coming back to these antiseptics, we tried to do this. We isolated some Vibrio bacteria from infected animals. I shown you earlier, we found an infected animal. And we found these green colonies developed on the plate. And later on, we challenged them with different kind of natural antiseptics we use in our kitchen, or we find in and around our. So in the control, we didn't give any challenge. Sorry. In the control, we didn't give any challenge. For the other, garlic. So we just put G. This is a garlic challenge. Then tulsi. Then this is a. This is sensitivity plate. And neem, ginger, tamarind, zira mix, and vinegar. So we tested multiple plates, and we found, personally in our lab, we found that the most effective ones are going to be tamarind and vinegar. You see, wherever we apply tamarind and vinegar, the bacteria didn't grow there. The rest all plate is occupied by bacteria. But whereas at these 2 places, the bacteria didn't grow at all. So saying that tamarind and vinegar are looking better and effective against Vibrio. And other recommendations, what I personally suggest is to have this ajovan, in Telugu we call it vamu, and we have jeera, jeelakarra, and we have fenugreek, or we say it mentulu. You can mix them as a powder and you administer along with soy curd. Most of our farmers have curd with them, so you can use along with curd. This helps to maintain the proper digestion and assimilation of nutrients. For me, I suggested we need to have Super 6 for successful crop. So my Super 6 are like pond preparation, which ensures better productivity, and water preparation, which ensures good growth and better survival. Seed quality, key for a successful crop. Biosecurity for safety to prevent emergencies. Feed management and disease diagnosis for taking timely decision. And this is much more important for me. So coming back, why we are very much worried, and my entire topic today is actually to be like how to reduce costs. So it's not very easy to say, it's not very easy to really practice what I'm talking now, but definitely we have to try and all the ways, because let us understand what happened. I have a case one here, and these are the figures in rupees in India. So we have 15 parameters: land, lease, pond preparation, biosecurity, maintenance, EHP treatment, seed, feed, whatever. And we have seen that the total cost of production for case one. So suppose we harvest a pond at 100 count and the FCR is only 1.1 and my survival is very good and 90%, but still I have the production cost around 270 rupees, because if you can see here, most of the cost was done before stocking. So 11 lakhs, this is a production cost I estimated for a 40-acre farm. I have taken example of a 40-acre farm with 4 million stocking seeds. So if we see like this, so what happened is, if you consider the land, lease, pond preparation until stocking of seed, more than 80% of the costs are already involved. So what happens is your production cost will be very, very high for if you harvest at 100 count. So taking the recent price, the new price today, it is like around 230 rupees. We may have to lose around 44 rupees per kilo by doing all this way. So I have another case where the development here is we have changed to 40 count. So we have grown the shrimp until 40 count, but the FCR is a bit high, 1.5 FCR. So I didn't really handle the farm properly, or we didn't monitor the feed properly. And our survival is still 80%, less than before. So in this case, all the heads remain same, but what happens is the production cost still remains 280 rupees. Considering today's price of 350 rupees, we have a marginal profit here, like 70 rupees. I suggest this, I'm taking this into consideration of 100% successful farm, like 80% survival mean you stock 4 million, you get 3.2 million harvested at 40 count. So this is not the case for many farmers in India. We will lose at least 3 or 4 pounds in minimum, either for white spot or EHP. And this cost can multiply further. It can go like 350 rupees also. So disease control is the first point to take care. If you can control disease, the costs will be controlled. So coming back to this, so at 40 count, my production cost is 280 rupees. It can be plus or minus 10%. I don't say that everybody does. See, like for example, biosecurity maintenance may not be for every crop. EHP treatment may not be for every crop. So more or less, it depends on individual farm, but it is around 280 rupees. You can say plus or minus 10%. I have another case, the same 40 count for this farm. If I can extend up to 40 count, but I can do a better monitoring of my feed intake, and I can control my FCR at 1.3. and the survival is still same, only 80%, I can still save another 21 rupees from the same production. So if you can see, just by adjusting FCR from 1.5 to 1.3, by monitoring your check trace properly and by controlling your feed distribution properly, you can save 21 rupees. So friends and farmers, please consider FCR, because FCR 1.5 has become very, very normal in India. I don't think it is normal anymore. We have to target 1.1 FCR, at least 1.2 FCR for 40 count. So that would be the real big picture. So why I say this is many farmers, they want to try their costs. So they want to save their costs. So they don't do proper pond preparation because they say it is very expensive. They don't do EHP treatment because they say it is very expensive. They don't even test their seeds or water because they say it is very expensive. So that's why we say it's not like that. See, the real costs, what you are putting here, you see, you are putting like a lot of costs are involved at the first 6 to 7 parameters. Later on, see, for example, lab testing, you see, you are spending only 0.5 rupee per kilo. This is really, really less when compared to the damage you are doing without properly analyzing in the laboratory. So you have to go for proper testing and you have to do all the pond preparations and water preparations we have suggested before so that you can ensure better productivity. This is much, much more important for us. And target 1.3 FCR. This is at least 1.3 FCR so that you can save 21 rupees. And the last one, I have a fourth case in which FCR is still 1.3 and I have raised survival from 80% just to 85%. So instead of 80%, I have raised my survival to 85% and it has added me another 10 rupees of profit. So raising my profit to 102 rupees at the same selling cost. So just by changing, by improving our practices, by changing our FCR and survival, yes, we can really, really save a lot of money and we can just reduce our risks and losses. So why all these problems are coming? Most of the problems and most of the research papers say all these problems like EHP, VIPRIO, random mortality, EMS, white feces, lucial, whatever you talk today, they are all pointing towards organic load. You see high organic load. So farmers and friends don't try to take a small pack solution. Solutions are not small when problems are very big. So we have to think that the problem is big because the organic load is very high. You can't really treat this kind of environment with a packet of like 100 grams or 200 grams. We have to really work on reducing organic loads. What factors are contributing organic loads? This raw water or water from the previous crop, if you want to do 2 or 3 crops in the same water, you will be carrying high organic loads in the coming crops. Those ponds which are not able to dry properly or severe seepage from the neighborings, you can see they can't remove sludge from the previous crop. These ponds will be carrying organic load. And continuous production cycles, as I'm saying repeatedly, if you do in the same water again and again, you must be having higher organic loads. And stocking densities. You stock your pond with very high densities unknowingly or even knowingly, you don't know what is your carrying capacity properly. Beyond the carrying capacity, you may add a lot of organic load. And if your aerator system is insufficient or inefficient, you don't have enough aerators in the pond or you don't place them properly and use them properly, you must be adding a lot of organic loads to your pond. Frequent plankton crashes just because of bad water qualities like very high nitrogen, phosphorus and organic loads in your pond can really add to these problems. So once you harvest your pond, you don't take care of your ponds properly and you leave it to sunlight. This partial water like a half it or less than moist surfaces can really produce a lot of lab and you don't try to remove this lab from your water. It can add organic load. And uneaten feed. You can see that every 100 kgs of feed you throw in the pond every day, you will be left with 33 kgs of organic waste adding into the pond. So all these are multiple sources of organic load and we have to fight with this organic load. So those ponds, those farms who have a real sludge pump and sludge pond mechanism, they can use it. But those ponds who don't have a sludge pond shouldn't use any sludge pumps. Removing sludge from the pond without having sludge pumps, this is the major culprit today. Most of our drains are contaminated because we left a lot of sludge into the drains. So this is one important point. So the next important thing, if you have an existing nursery and you don't use it properly, this is the time you have to retrieve that. So nursery system really helps. What are the benefits of nursery? It can control your operational cost because you rear all the seeds in one small point with a controlled environment. It is highly biosecure and you can have a better control over water quality and precise feed management. You can just really control each and every pellet of feed in the pond. So until 1 month, you will have a clear-cut picture of how much feed can be given, how without wasting any pellet of feed, you can really rear for 1 month. you can really monitor the health properly, because each check tray or each scoop you do, you will get thousands of animals, and it is very easy for you to find the weakest animal. You can send to the nearest lab and you can check. So every now and then you will have a chance of identifying the bad animals, if at all it is there in the nursery, and you can have a monitoring on that. So stunting and strengthening the seed for 30 days can really help you to get that exponential growth in the pond. So wherever we are following nurseries, we can really have a good growth in the grower ponds, even though they are badly affected with EHP. So the grower ponds are badly affected with EHP, but within 30 days, if we can reach like at least 100 counts, like 10 grams to 12 grams, we can have at least some break-even point. So instead of losing a lot of money, you use your existing nursery appropriately so that we can have a good crop. My suggestion finally here is, you please, all the farmers have to check what are the leak points. We know that our money is draining unnecessarily, so we should know where this is really draining. So say no to unproven and unethical, unlabeled products. So we know, and I don't want to really talk bad about that, but we shouldn't use any product which is not proven or not recommended by authorized aquaculture professional to use in the farm. And don't really go with super expensive fancy products saying that it can reduce white gut or white feces or anything. As my first slide says, that there is no proper established agent causing white feces or loose shell. And unless you don't know the proper causative agent, you don't have a proper solution for that. And you don't have a proper product for that also. So don't believe and keep on applying these fancy products. Instead, you can proactively do some probiotic, and my recommendation earlier, you can do them, but don't go with fancy products. So, and again, not right time for large infrastructure modifications like as I told you, you feel that nursery is very helpful, but don't go for big investments on nurseries. And many farmers ask me whether we can go for a PE sheet because I have problem with EHP. Yeah, you can have a PE liner, but this is not the right time, because these are very expensive in Indian context. So if you keep on investing on these large infrastructures like PE lining, nurseries, you may not recover money soon. So this is not the right time. Either you must be already having, so you go them use efficiently. But if you don't have, this is not the right time. We'll wait and use later on. But what we have to improve on is, coming back, you have to improve on water and pond preparation. There you don't have to save anything. Biosecurity, yes, you have to invest on this. Feed management, you have to focus more on this. Disease diagnosis, I told you repeatedly, you have to utilize. We have very good labs everywhere in India. So those who can diagnose properly, you select the best lab nearby you and get the disease diagnosis properly. This is very, very important, because I clearly said, unknowingly farmers are losing money because they just try something. I have one farmer who is having a white spot. There is mortality, and he didn't test, and he wanted to just try some product for molting and some product for mineral application, and he tried for 15 to 20 days, and all his 19 ponds has got contaminated. And that day, after 19 days, he called me and said that my ponds are having mortality everywhere. I told him to send one sample, and it is positive for white spot. So simple. You can test it on site also. You can send to the nearby lab also. You test, you can protect your farm. Timely decision. I have clearly explained how important this timely decision is going to help you. You can't really have EHP or white feces in the pond, and you can't expect very good crop or bigger size. So once you have established EHP and white spot, EHP and white gut in the pond, you have to have a short-term plans, and you have to monitor week on week. You have to understand the market situation and take a timely decision. You shouldn't waste time anymore. You have to decide based on the market and size. So take home reminders, as I told you, I try to recall, we have to reduce stocking like densities, ponds, and we have to control expenses. Whatever I told you, we have to improve our survival from 80 to 90%. We have to better our FCR from 1.5 or 1.6 to 1.2. And we have to control our applications like probiotics and minerals. And especially, I want to say this, we have to prevent these emergencies. We can't really afford to lose much more to the diseases, especially like white spot and EHP. You need to have a proper diagnosis and biosecurity. At the same time, your decisions must be proper. You need to understand your pond and shrimp condition properly and take the right decision so that you don't further lose money. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention. I think I have taken time longer than prescribed, but sorry for that. And I thank Lachance, Ms. Jackie and Nancy and Mr. Sham from so for giving me this wonderful opportunity. And I'm now leaving the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Madhu.
Madhu.
Sir, small request is there, sir. Can we can make one WhatsApp
Thank
group?
you, sir.
Thank you to all. Especially
Madhu, thanks for your excellent presentation. Many customers have many questions. They do questions in the inbox.
Okay, Mr. Madhu,
Yeah.
can you ask some question about the shrimp farming in the message box?
Okay.
Sir, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah.
Sir, I belong from Rajasthan and we are doing culture in pea line, sir. So how can we sanitize on pea line, sir?
It's actually rather easy to do it on pea lining because the surface is smooth and it can't absorb anything. As I suggested you, like caustic acid and chlorine, you do the program, you spray them, and it would be rather you will have a very less cost also, because you don't consume much of these chemicals. So you use caustic first, like 4 kilos per ton of water, and spray them all over. And if you finish this 1 ton, you mix once again, and you do it until you are satisfied that you clean your pond thoroughly on the PE. But for those pond who are having PE liners, I suggest you have to thoroughly check what is under the PE. If you have to treat under PE properly. So you should have a facility to pump in the chemicals under PE. Thank you.
Okay. And sir, you show the flow chart in which if shrimp is getting adequate amount of feed, and after that in 3 weeks there is no growth and there is no white fecal syndrome and nothing, no disease is there. And then what is the possibility, sir? In last year, sir, I got the same problem. Shrimp are taking around 80 kg feed in a day, but there is no growth at all in last 21 days. Then I have to harvest, but there is no diagnosis I am able to make, sir.
Have you tested the seed? That is the important factor I am
Yes, sir.
talking
I tested the seed in Nellore, sir.
Okay.
And that time there was all the PCR report I done in front of mine, sir. I am a doctor, sir, by profession.
Yeah.
I can understand better. Everything, every test was negative, sir.
Okay. So if it is negative and because there are multiple factors involved when the growth is slow, maybe possibly because of very high density, lack of infrastructure or genetics, it is a big thing. But I suggest your technical person to analyze to help you on this, because I can't really pinpoint and say that this is the one problem. But if it is disease, yes, we have to understand it properly. But if you don't have disease and you have very slow growth, it can be because of bad genetics too. Bad genetics, very high densities. Yeah, there is possibility.
Okay. And sir, my last question on, I need your expert opinion, as all the members are need your focus on this point, that what regarding the rates on this year, sir. We have to do stocking in February or we have to wait for some more time, then we have to do stocking in June, sir. What is your opinion, sir?
See, actually what happened is the situation is bad now. And as I told you, there are productions coming from everywhere. The one thing you asked me is the most difficult question to answer, because for me, really, it is very difficult to say the price trend. We can't analyze. Definitely, we are going to have a rough period. At least for next 6 to 8 months, we may have very low price trend. Or if the current price trend remains, we must be the luckiest and happiest.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Hi, Madhu. This is Manoj Sharma here.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Thank you, Madhu, for a very good presentation. I honestly, I was the first to join, and I have listened to you very carefully as a student. And you have rephrased the entire knowledge.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Your appreciation mean your feedback is valuable for me.
No. You are always brilliant, Madhu. You have a grassroots knowledge. You have almost like 2+ decade experience. And thank you, Lachance Group, for the good presentation.
Thank you.
It will definitely bringing in someone like Madhu will always help the farmers.
Thank you.
But Madhu, there was some Rajasthan doctor previously asked about the rates.
Yes, sir.
I'm in Gujarat, so I just will want to answer him one thing.
Yes, sir.
See, the problem with Rajasthan and Haryana, Punjab is that they don't have any processing plant nearby them.
Mm.
So actually what happens to now, the people from the farmers are very hardworking there. They are producing very good. Their cost of production is also much better than us. Their survivability is also good. But the problem is that when they want to sell, they either they have to sell it in central part of Andhra Pradesh, or they have to send it to Mumbai or West Coast processors.
Yeah.
So if you see an average 1,500-1,600 kilometer travel, because if the one truck goes from Andhra Pradesh or another truck goes from the Mumbai, it will take them for at least 7 days to engage the truck to bring the material from Rajasthan, Haryana or Punjab.
Yeah.
So that itself is always, whatever prices are there in India, for them there is always a 30-40 rupees gap.
Yeah.
And in such unfortunate situation, the poor farmers from Rajasthan are really suffering.
Yes.
So my recommendation to them is that please try to produce odd man out count, which is not run of all the mills. So even these people can be able to match the prices of the Andhra Pradesh or West Coast of India. If they are also producing 30 count, 40 count, impossible for them to sell, because they have to send the material for almost 1,500 to 1,600 kilometers. Yeah. Another thing I will suggest to Rajasthan, Haryana and Punjab farmers, they should have their own peeling shed, pre-processing division.
Yeah.
So they don't need to send so much head-on material, which is actually a waste.
Great.
You got Madhu?
Yes. Great.
So whatever price is there, good price or bad price, this Rajasthan and Andhra farmers are facing, I'm saying Punjab and Rajasthan farmers are always going to get 30-40 rupees less. That is actually a problem.
Yeah.
So that's they have to understand.
Yeah.
Once again, thank you, Madhu. It was quite good learning for me also.
Thank you.
So take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, sir.
Hello, Madhuji. Good evening. It was a great presentation as you have Matre here. I have very quick 2 questions for you. One is, what is the KMNO4 dosage you suggest for 6 feet depth of 1 acre pond? You said the 12 kgs, but would it be enough? What is it in ppm?
My point
so that is my first question, and second question would be, for the same water volume, you are suggesting to use sea salt. What would be the concentration of that in ppm? Thank you. That's all.
So
I'll come and meet you in person
to your first question, because our target is to handle EHP in the soil. So when we are treating with potassium permanganate, it is always advisable to treat on the soil. So as close to the soil as possible. I don't suggest you to use potassium permanganate in huge quantities of 6 feet of water. So because we know that EHP can stay down at the soil, you can use 12 kgs per acre at lower than 1 feet so that it reaches appropriately to the soil. So that is meant for soil treatment. For water treatment, yes, you can use up to 1 or 1.5 ppm. So that will help for water treatment. You don't need to use much more.
How much days it takes to completely oxidize and get outside?
With the proper aeration,
out of the water.
With proper aeration and sunlight, within 4 to 5 days, your PP will get oxidized.
Okay.
Thank you.
And regarding the sea salt addition,
salt you can do like up to 50 kilos per acre every week.
Every week throughout the culture, right?
Madhu, yeah, this is Nancy. Thanks for your presentation. And all customers, we have also other technician, consultant introduce our product. So
Yes.
maybe all customers has leave the WhatsApp in the inbox. We
Yes.
will invite them to the WhatsApp group, and later, if they have questions, we will collect and then invite Mr. Madhu to introduce.
Sure, sure.
Is that okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Madhu, for your excellent
Mr. Madhu, sir.
presentation.
Thank you.
Mr.
Okay.
Madhu, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Hello. Hello,
Next,
sir. Mr. Madhu, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Madhu, sir.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
This is
leaving.
Sandeep from Andhra Pradesh.
Hmm.
Can I speak in Telugu?
Yeah, you can speak in Telugu. I think we'll discuss again because they are rushing for the next presentation. So it's, I think.
Okay, no issue, sir.
I think
Can
you
I
can
have any
you can have my
contact?
contact. We'll be in touch. I can share my contact. Okay.
Just share your contact, sir. That I want to discuss just few things about
Yeah,
my
sure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
thank you a lot. Next, we will invite two aquaculture technical consultants to share with us, and they will bring more information based on their years of experience and the shrimp market. So let's welcome Mr. Chandrasekhar to share with us. Hello, Chandrasekhar. Hello, Mr. Chandrasekhar.
Hi.
Hello.
Oh,
Hello, is Chandrasekhar is over there?
Are you there?
okay, Mr. Prasad, are you okay? Available? Mr. Prasad,
Yeah.
okay.
వేస్తాను ఇంకా టైం ఉంది. హలో.
Hello, yeah, we can hear you.
ఓకే. థ్యాంక్ యూ టు ఆల్. అందరికీ నమస్తే. I am from AP, West Godavari
Hi,
district, Palakollu.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you too, Mr. Prasad. Please introduce our
Thank you.
product.
నేను తెలుగులో చెప్తాను.
Yeah.
Okay,
అయితే మధు గారు అన్ని చెప్పేసి ఉన్నారు ఆల్రెడీ. అన్ని చెప్పేసి ఉన్నారు. సో నేనేం చెప్తున్నానంటే ప్రెసెంట్ వచ్చిన కల్చర్లో ఎటువంటి సిచ్యువేషన్స్ ఎంత ముందు కూడా మనం టైగర్ నుంచి కూడా చూస్తూనే ఉన్నాం. టైగర్ లేదంటే ఇంకా నాకు ఇప్పుడు ఏమనిపిస్తుంది అంటే ఈ ఎనామీ మీద టైగరే బెస్ట్ అనిపిస్తుంది. ఎందుకంటే ఈ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ కూడా టైగర్కి వచ్చేసరికి ఏదో వైట్ స్పాట్ ఒకటే ఉండేది ఎక్కువగా, తర్వాత విబ్రియా వచ్చేది. జనరల్ గా వాటర్ అండ్ సాయిల్ ఈ టాక్సిటీ కామన్ వెనామీ లాగానే. కానీ వెనామీ వచ్చేసరికి అట్లా కాదు. ఈ వైట్ ఫేకల్ మ్యాటర్ అనేది చాలా ఇబ్బంది పెడుతుంది. అట్లాగే వాటర్ లో ఈ మైక్రోసిస్ట్ అనేది కూడా చాలా ఎక్కువగా ఇబ్బంది పెడుతుంది. ఈ మైక్రోసిస్ట్ అనేది ఈ రోజు కొత్తగా వచ్చింది ఏం కాదు. నేను 2001లో వచ్చాను కల్చర్ కి. బిఫోర్ 2001 కూడా మైక్రోసిస్ట్ మీద చాలా అవగాహన ఉంది అందరికి, ఫిష్ కల్చర్ లో కూడా అప్పటి నుంచే ఉంది. కానీ ఇది ఏంటంటే దీనికి వచ్చేసరికి వెనామికి వచ్చేసరికి మైక్రోసిస్టిస్ కానీ లేదంటే ఈ ఈహెచ్పి లేదంటే ఐహెచ్హెచ్ఎన్వి కానీ అంటే ఈ లివర్ డిసీజెస్ ఎక్కువగా కనిపిస్తున్నాయి. ఎందుకంటే టైగర్కి వచ్చేసరికి లో డెన్సిటీ, లో రిస్క్. వెనామికి వచ్చేసరికి హై డెన్సిటీ, హై రిస్క్. అట్లాగే మనం కూడా ఏంటంటే ఉండే కొద్ది కూడా ఎక్కువగా కెమికల్స్ వాడటం, పెస్టిసైడ్స్ వాడటం, వీటి వల్ల ఏంటంటే బాగా ఎక్కువగా ఈ రెసిస్టెన్స్ తగ్గిపోయింది. దీంట్లో కూడా చాలా సయ్యాకో అని ఈ బ్యాలెన్స్లు ఇట్లా చాలా వచ్చేసినాయి సీడ్లు. హార్డ్ లైన్ అని లేదా స్పీడ్ లైన్, గ్రోత్ లైన్ చాలా పేర్లు పెట్టి తీసుకొస్తా ఉన్నారు. ఏ లైన్ తీసుకొచ్చినా సరే మన వరకు వచ్చేసరికి ఏరియాని బట్టి లేదనుకుంటే అక్కడ ఉండే కల్చర్ యొక్క వాళ్ళ పద్ధతులను బట్టి రిజల్ట్ అనేది చేంజ్ అయిపోతూ ఉంటుంది. ఇందాక ఎవరు అడిగారు మధు గారిని,
వాళ్ళకి కొనుక్కునే వాళ్ళు లేరు, ఏదో చెప్పారు వాళ్ళకి పర్చేజ్ చేసేవాళ్ళు లేరంట. కొన్ని ఏరియాలో కొన్ని ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఉన్నాయి. ఇట్లా మనం ఈహెచ్పీలు చేసిన ఈ సీడ్ పీసీఆర్ చేసిన తర్వాత మనకి హ్యాచరీస్ దగ్గరికి వచ్చేసరికి నెగిటివ్ గానే వస్తుంది. అది కన్ఫర్మ్. ఏ ల్యాబ్ లో చేసినా సరే అది నెగిటివ్ వస్తుంది. కానీ అదే సీడు వెస్ట్ గోదావరి, ఈస్ట్ గోదావరి, నెల్లూరు ఇట్లా తీసుకొచ్చి ఇట్లా పాత ఆల్రెడీ కల్చర్ రన్నింగ్ ఉన్న ఏరియాలో వేస్తుంది. ఏదో 1 month 2 months తర్వాత 1 month తర్వాత 35 days తర్వాత కానీ పాజిటివ్ వస్తున్నాయి. అదే సీడు కొత్త ఏరియాకి వెళ్ళేసరికి కొత్త ఏరియా, కొత్త సాయిలు, అట్లా కొత్తగా తవ్విన చెరువులు వేసినప్పుడు వాటికి పాజిటివ్ ఏమో రావట్లేదు చాలా ఏరియాలో. అన్ని ఏరియాలో కాదు, చాలా ఏరియాలో.
Hello, Mr. Prasad. Can you please speak in English? Some customer request in English.
I am from Andhra Pradesh. We are from Telugu. Here also some Telugu Telugu participants are also here, I hope. So I want to speak in Telugu.
Hello.
So tell me.
Hello.
Hello.
Whatever Prasad is telling you, I will explain in English.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello, Mr.
Whatever
Prasad.
Prasad telling you,
It's okay. You can mix English. It's okay. English and your local language is okay.
Okay, madam. Please understand what he tell. They will, so many people are, so many farmers are purchase the seed from hatcheries. First of lab testing is getting on native. After the stocking, 20 days, 30 days, they will getting on negative, positive again. Initially negative, after that positive. How is it possible? He is asking.
హలో, సరే నేను మాట్లాడతాను. అయితే ఇప్పుడు ఎందుకు అట్లా వస్తుంది అనేది మన ఏరియా కానీ లేదంటే మన సాయిల్స్ లో కానీ మన వాటర్స్ అన్ని కంటామినేషన్ అయినాయి బాగా. ఎందుకు కంటామినేషన్ అయిందంటే మనం ఎక్కువ డెన్సిటీస్ చేసుకోవడం, బయోసెక్యూరిటీ ప్రాక్టీసెస్ సరిగ్గా ఫాలో అవ్వకపోవడం, ఏదైనా ఎక్కువ పెస్టిసైడ్స్ వాడుతున్నారు. ఆ పెస్టిసైడ్స్ రేపు ఎంత పెస్టిసైడ్స్ వాడుతున్నారంటే మన హైడ్రాక్లోరిక్ డెన్సిటీ చేసుకోవడం ఎందుకు, పెస్టిసైడ్స్ వాడటం ఎందుకంటే కమర్షియల్ బిజినెస్ లో ఇవన్నీ మాట్లాడకూడదు. కానీ చేసేదంతా కమర్షియల్ కాబట్టి ఇప్పుడు పెస్టిసైడ్స్ వాడినాం, వాటిని మళ్ళీ ఈ అందులో ఉండే అనిమల్స్ వాటిని కన్జ్యూమ్ చేస్తాయి. మళ్ళీ మనం వాటిని తీసుకుంటున్నప్పుడు ఈ పెస్టిసైడ్స్ దీనివల్ల ఏంటంటే వాటి యొక్క రెసిస్టెన్స్ ఎఫెక్ట్ కూడా తగ్గిపోతుంది. రొయ్యలోనే కదా అన్ని అనిమల్స్ కూడా రెసిస్టెన్స్ తగ్గుతుంది. ఈ పెస్టిసైడ్స్ ఎక్కువగా వాడటం, ఈ కెమికల్స్ కూడా బాగా ఎక్కువగా వాడటం. యాక్చువల్ గా ఇప్పుడు ఏంటంటే ఒక టైగర్ లో ఇప్పుడు సీడ్ దగ్గరికి వచ్చేసరికి సీడ్ ఏంటంటే మనకి జోవియా, ప్రోటోజోవియా టైంలో ఏంటంటే నేచురల్ ఫుడ్ జోవియా తీసుకోదు. నెక్స్ట్ స్టేజ్ నుంచి మనం ఫీడ్ ఇచ్చినప్పుడు దానికి అంతగా డైజెస్టివ్ ట్రాక్ అంతా కూడా బాగానే ఉంటుంది. తర్వాత వచ్చేసరికి ఎప్పుడైతే అది పిఎల్ స్టేజ్కి వచ్చిందో ఆర్టిఫిషియల్ ఫీడ్ మీద డిపెండ్ అవుతుంది. ఆర్టిఫిషియల్ ఫీడ్ మీద డిపెండ్ అయ్యేసరికి అది కూడా సెలెక్టెడ్ ఫీడ్ పెడతారు రొయ్యి పిల్లకి. పెట్టినప్పుడు దానికి డైజెస్టివ్ ట్రాక్ కూడా, డైజెస్టివ్ సిస్టమ్ కూడా బాగానే ఉంటుంది, అంత ప్రెజర్ ఏమి ఉండదు. ఎప్పుడైతే అది ఒకసారి హ్యాచరీ నుంచి నేచురల్ వాటర్కి వచ్చిందో ఆటోమేటిక్గా అక్కడ మనకి ఎన్నో రకాల ప్లాంక్టన్స్ ఉంటాయి. అక్కడ సెలెక్టెడ్ ప్లాంక్టన్స్ ఉండవు, హ్యాచరీలో ఉన్నట్టు సెలెక్టెడ్ ఫుడ్ ఉండదు హ్యాచరీలో ఉన్నట్టు. సో అందుకని వాళ్ళు ఏం చేస్తారంటే మనకి ఎప్పుడైతే నేచురల్ వాటర్కి వచ్చిందో అక్కడ సో మెనీ హార్మ్ఫుల్ ప్లాంక్టన్ ఉంటుంది, యూజ్ఫుల్ ప్లాంక్టన్ ఉంటుంది. దాన్ని అది కన్జ్యూమ్ చేసినప్పుడు దాంతో పాటు దీన్ని కూడా కన్జ్యూమ్ చేసుకున్నప్పుడు దాంతో కొన్ని మైకోటాక్సిన్స్ ఉండొచ్చు. ఇది బ్లూ గ్రీన్ ఆల్గే తీసుకోవడం వల్ల దాని నుంచి వచ్చినటువంటి మైకోటాక్సిన్స్ ఫామ్ అవ్వచ్చు బాడీలో. దాన్ని స్పీడ్ గా దాన్ని డైజెస్టివ్ చేసుకునే అంత క్యాపబిలిటీ దాని హెప్టోప్యాంక్రేజ్ లో ఉండాలి. కానీ దాని హెప్టోప్యాంక్రేజ్ అన్ని కూడా పెర్ఫెక్ట్ గా ఆరోగ్యంగా బలంగా ఉంటున్నాయా అంటే చెప్పలేము. ఎందుకంటే ఒక చెరువులో 1,00,000 రొయ్యలు ఉన్నప్పుడు 1,00,000 రొయ్యలు కూడా ఒకటే రెసిస్టెన్స్ పవర్ ఉండదు, ఒకటే బలం ఉండదు. ఏవో కొన్ని రొయ్యలు వీక్గా ఉండొచ్చు, వాటికి ఈ డైజెస్టివ్ కెపాసిటీ అనేది తక్కువగా ఉండొచ్చు. అటువంటిప్పుడు
ప్రసాద్ గారు ఒక చోట కూర్చోంటారా? సిగ్నల్ లూజ్ అవుతున్నాం.
సిగ్నల్ లూజ్ అవుతున్నారా? ఓకే,
థ్యాంక్ యూ.
ఓకే. అయితే ఇప్పుడు నేను చెప్పింది ఏంటంటే ఇప్పుడు వాళ్ళకి నేచురల్ వాటర్ కి ఎప్పుడైతే వచ్చిందో దానికి హెప్టో ప్యాంక్రేజ్ మీద ప్రెజర్ పడుతుంది సడన్ గా. అప్పటి వరకు ఏమి పెద్దగా ప్రెజర్ లేని ప్రెజర్ దీనికి నేచురల్ వాటర్ కి వచ్చేసరికి అది అక్కడ దొరికే ఫాన్ అండ్ ఫ్లోరా జూ ప్లాంక్టన్ ఫైటో ప్లాంక్టన్ హార్మ్ఫుల్ ఉంటుంది, యూజ్ఫుల్ ఉంటుంది. అక్కడ రెండింటిని అది డైజెస్టివ్ చేసుకోవాలి. ఎక్కువగా అది ప్రిఫరెన్స్ ఎక్కువ నేచురల్ ఫుడ్ కాబట్టి దానికి ఎక్కువ ఫుడ్ తీసుకునే టైంలో అది దాని హెప్టో ప్యాంక్రేజ్ మీద ఎక్కువగా ప్రెజర్ పడుతుంది. ఆ ప్రెజర్ పడినప్పుడు ఆ హెప్టో ప్యాంక్రేజ్ ఉన్నటువంటి అన్ని రకాల ఫ్లూయిడ్స్ కానీ లేదనుకుంటే 4 రకాల సెల్స్, ఈ సెల్స్, బిఆర్ఎఫ్ సెల్స్, ఆ 4 రకాల సెల్స్ బాగా బలంగా ఉంటేనే అక్కడ బాగా డైజెస్టివ్ ఎంజైమ్స్ అయ్యి బాగా కలుస్తాయి. మనం కూడా భోజనం చేసిన తర్వాత మన నోట్లో కానీ జీర్ణాశయంలో కానీ జీర్ణ సరసాలు సరిగ్గా అందకపోతే మనం హాస్పిటల్కి వెళ్ళాల్సిందే ఎవరైనా సరే. ఇది కూడా అంతే, రొయ్యి కూడా పెట్టేసుకుంటున్నారు, మేతల్లో పెట్టేస్తున్నాము, లేదా వాటర్ లో కలర్ రావడానికి అది కొట్టేసాం ఇది కొట్టేసాం అంటే అన్ని కొట్టారు బాగానే ఉంటుంది. కొట్టిన తర్వాత అది రొయ్యికి డైజెస్టివ్ చేసుకునే అంత క్యాపబిలిటీ ఉంటుందా అంటే 100% అన్ని రొయ్యలకి ఉండకపోవచ్చు. కొంత పర్సెంట్ ఉండొచ్చు. అది ఎంత పర్సెంట్ అనేది వాటి యొక్క రెసిస్టెన్స్ పవర్ మీద ఆధారపడి ఉంటుంది. చెరువులు వేసిన 10 లక్షల రొయ్య ఒకే తైల నుంచి రాదు కదా. కొన్ని రొయ్యలేమో ఒక మదర్ నుంచి రావచ్చు, కొంత పిల్ల వేరే మదర్ నుంచి రావచ్చు. ఒక మదర్ నుంచి వచ్చిన పిల్ల స్ట్రాంగ్ గా బలంగా యాక్టివ్ గా ఉండొచ్చు రెసిస్టెన్స్ పవర్ విషయంలో, ఇంకో మదర్ నుంచి వచ్చింది అంత స్ట్రాంగ్ ఉండకపోవచ్చు. కానీ ఒకటే బ్యాచ్ కాబట్టి జనరల్ గా ఒకేలా ఉంటాయి. కొన్ని ఈ డైజెస్టివ్ సిస్టమ్ దగ్గరకు వచ్చేసరికి కొన్ని అట్లా రెస్పాండ్ అవుతాయి, కొన్ని ఎట్లా రెస్పాండ్ అవుతాయి. ఒకవేళ మనం కనుక ఈ హెప్టో ప్యాంక్రేజ్ వచ్చేసరికి ఈ వెనామీలో వచ్చేసరికి మన హై స్టాకింగ్ డెన్సిటీస్, అట్లాగే టైగర్ లైన్కి వెళ్ళేసరికి మనం అది బాగా లో లైన్ డెన్సిటీ కాబట్టి మనకి పెద్దగా ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఉండవు. ఇక్కడికి వచ్చేసరికి వాళ్ళు ఎక్కువ డెన్సిటీస్ వేసుకోవడం వెనామీలో, అట్లాగే మనకి మెడికేషన్ కూడా హెవీ మెడికేషన్ ఇవ్వడం వల్ల సరైన ప్లాంక్టన్ కూడా అక్కడ ప్రొడక్షన్ అవ్వట్లేదు. అంతంత హై డోసేజ్ ఇచ్చినప్పుడు యూజ్ఫుల్ ప్లాంక్టన్ ఎక్కడ ఫామ్ అవుతుంది? ఎక్కువగా యూజ్ఫుల్ ప్లాంక్టన్ ఫామ్ అయిన దాంట్లో అంతా కూడా ఆ ప్లాంక్టన్ లో కూడా మంచి ప్రోటీన్ కానీ మంచి వైటమిన్స్ కానీ న్యూట్రిషనల్ సపోర్ట్ ఇచ్చే ప్లాంక్టన్ కూడా చాలా తక్కువగా ఉంటుంది. ప్లాంక్టన్ అనాలిసిస్ చేసినప్పుడు హార్మ్ఫుల్ ప్లాంక్టన్ కూడా ఎక్కువగానే ఫామ్ అవుతుంది. మైక్రోసిస్టిస్ ఎప్పటి నుంచో ఉంది. జనరల్ గా అన్ని వాటర్ లో కూడా మైక్రోసిస్టిస్ ఉంటుంది. దీనికోసం మనం ఏంటంటే ఇప్పుడున్న కల్చర్లో జనరల్ గా మనం ఏం ఆలోచిస్తున్నాం అంటే ఈ రేట్ లేదు, లేదనుకుంటే కొనుక్కునే వాళ్ళు లేడు, ఇవన్నీ ఎప్పటి నుంచో ఉన్నాయి, ఈ రోజు కొత్తగా లేవు. నేను కల్చర్లోకి రాకముందు నుంచి ఈ రేట్లు లేవు, కొనుక్కునే వాళ్ళు లేడు, ఆ రేట్లు పెరిగిపోయినాయి, ఈ రేట్లు పెరిగిపోయినాయి అని సీజనల్ గా చెప్తానే ఉన్నారు. అయినా కల్చర్ పెరుగుతూనే ఉంది. మనం ఏం చేసుకోవాలంటే ఇప్పుడు మన 3 months బ్యాక్ 4 months బ్యాక్ క్రాప్ పెట్టారు, 180 రూపీస్ 100 కౌంట్ అంట. వీళ్ళు పట్టింది క్రాప్లు అందరూ బాగానే పెట్టారు, కానీ వాళ్ళు 200 అయ్యింది. కేజీకి వచ్చి 200 అయింది, వాళ్ళు పట్టిందేమో 180కి పెట్టారు. మరి ఇంక వాళ్ళు మంచి కౌంట్లు పెట్టిన ఉపయోగం ఏముంది? తక్కువ డేస్ లో ఎవరైతే 50, 40, 35 డేస్ 40, 45 డేస్ 50 డేస్ లో పట్టారో వాళ్ళకి సొమ్ములైనవి. 60 డేస్ లో 100 కౌంట్ పట్టిన వాళ్ళందరికీ లాస్ అయ్యారు. ఇప్పుడు ప్రజెంట్ ఇందాక చెప్పినట్టుగా కొన్ని సీట్లు మేము ఏంటంటే ఒకటే బ్యాచ్ నెగిటివ్ టెస్ట్ చేసిన తర్వాత కొన్ని ఏమో కర్ణాటక పంపించాము, కొన్ని ఏమో గోదావరి పంపించాం, కొన్ని ఒరిస్సా పంపించాం. ఒరిస్సా కర్ణాటక పంపించిన వాళ్ళ సీడ్ లో వైరస్ లేదు, ఏమీ లేదు. మన వెస్ట్ గోదావరి వచ్చిన మాత్రం 30 days కి వైట్ స్పాట్ వచ్చేసింది. ఏంట్రా బాబు ఎలా చేసాం? మళ్ళీ పాజిటివ్ కదా టెస్ట్ చేసాం కదా ల్యాబుల్లో అని చెప్పి మళ్ళీ 2వ బ్యాచ్ కూడా అట్లాగే వెళ్ళాం. 2వ బ్యాచ్ అంతే, 3వ బ్యాచ్ అంతే. ఎక్కడైతే మనకి బాగా కంటామినేటెడ్ ఏరియాలు ఉన్నాయో అక్కడ బయోసెక్యూరిటీ ఎక్కువగా తీసుకోవాలి. కొత్త ఏరియాస్కి వచ్చేసరికి అవన్నీ ఏం అవసరం లేదు. కానీ ఒకటి వైట్ ఫేకల్ మ్యాటర్ మాత్రం ఈ ఏరియా ఆ ఏరియా లేదు, అన్ని ఏరియాల్లోని కామన్ గా వైట్ ఫేకల్ మ్యాటర్ మాత్రం బాగా ఏడిపిస్తుంది. దీనికి రీజన్ ఏంటంటే కలర్ అంటారు, ప్లాంక్టన్ అంటారు, ఒక్కొక్కటి చెప్తున్నారు. పర్టికులర్ గా ఒక రీజన్ అయితే లేదు. ఇవి పారా హిమోలైటికస్ గ్రీన్ కాలనీస్ లో ఉండేది. సో అది మేజర్ గా మనకి టెస్టింగ్ చేసినప్పుడు అది రిజల్ట్ లో మనకి అది ఒకటే పారామీటర్ కనిపిస్తుంది కాబట్టి ఆ ఎపిథీలియల్ సెల్స్ లో బయటకు వచ్చిన ఎపిథీలియల్ సెల్స్ లో సో మనకి ఇంకా విబ్రో పారా హిమోలైటికస్ మెయిన్ అని మనం అనుకుంటున్నాం. అది ఎంతవరకు ఏంటంటే దాన్ని రైతులు చెప్పడం వలన లేదనుకుంటే ఇలా మీటింగ్ లో మధు గారు లాంటి వాళ్ళు చెప్పడం వలన తెలియటం తప్ప సైంటిఫిక్ గా ఎక్కడ ఎవిడెన్స్ ఇవ్వలేదు. ఇది పర్టికులర్ గా దీని వల్ల వచ్చింది, దీనికి ఇదే మందు వాడండి అని. ఇంతవరకు ఏంటంటే ఈ క్రాప్ పనిచేసిన వైట్ గట్టు మందు తర్వాత క్రాప్ పనిచేయదు. ఈ క్రాప్ లో నెంబర్ 1 మెడిసిన్స్ అన్ని కూడా నెక్స్ట్ క్రాప్ లో అసలు పనిచేయవు. ఇయర్లీ 6 months మారిపోతా ఉంది. ఒకే రైతు ఒకే వైట్ గట్టు మందు సంవత్సరాల తరబడి వాడలేకపోతున్నారు. అట్లా ప్లాంక్టన్ డెన్సిటీలు కూడా అంతే, ఎప్పుడు ఒకలా ఉండవు. దేనికి వస్తుందంటే కొన్ని చెరువుల్లో మేము నైట్రేట్లు ఎక్కువగా ఉన్న ఫాముల్లో వైట్ ఫేకల్ మ్యాటర్ అబ్జర్వ్ చేసాము. హలో, ఓకే. వైట్ ఫేకల్ మ్యాటర్ ఎక్కువ అబ్జర్వ్ అది నైట్రేట్స్ ఎక్కువ ఉన్న ట్యాంకుల్లో వైట్ ఫేకల్ మ్యాటర్ అబ్జర్వ్ చేసాం. కొన్ని ట్యాంకుల్లో నైట్రేట్స్ ఎక్కువ ఉన్నా సరే వైట్ ఫేకల్ మ్యాటర్ రాలే. దానికి ఏంటంటే కొన్ని ట్యాంకుల్లో ప్లాంక్టన్ ఎక్కువ బ్లూ గ్రీన్ ఆల్గే ఎక్కువ చెరువుల్లో వచ్చింది. ఇదేంటి ఇలా వచ్చింది, నైట్రేట్స్ ఎక్కువ ట్యాంకుల్లో రావాలి కదా అని సరే బ్లూ గ్రీన్ ఆల్గే మీద దృష్టి పెడితే బ్లూ గ్రీన్ ఆల్గేలో కూడా మళ్ళీ అట్లా కాకుండా ఈ రెండు లేవు, బ్లూ గ్రీన్ ఆల్గే లేని చెరువుల్లో కూడా వచ్చింది వైట్ ఫేకల్ మ్యాటర్. అట్లా అంచనాలకు దొరకట్లా. ఈ 3 months దీని మీద ఫోకస్ పెడితే నెక్స్ట్ 3 months లో దాని యొక్క దాని యొక్క వచ్చే విధానం మారిపోతుంది. సరేలే ఫోన్లే కదా, ఇట్లా ఇది 35 days తర్వాత వస్తుంది కదా అంటే 20 days పిల్లలకు కూడా వైట్ ఫేకల్ మ్యాటర్ వచ్చేసింది. సర్లే ఇది ఎంత అయిపోయింది కదా అనుకుంటే కొన్ని తగ్గుతున్నాయి, కొన్ని తగ్గట్లేదు. సరే ఇప్పుడు ఎన్నో వచ్చేసినాయి మనకి. ఎటు వచ్చినా సరే మనకి ఎటువంటి ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఎన్నున్నా బయట నుంచి ఎక్స్టర్నల్ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఏంటంటే రేట్ లేకపోవడం, ఎవరు కొనుక్కోకపోవడం, వాటర్ డిసీజెస్, సాయిల్ డిసీజెస్, ఇవన్నీ కామన్ గా అందరూ చెప్పేవే. సో మనం వాటి జోలికి వెళ్లకుండా ఏంటంటే మన రొయ్యకి ఇంపార్టెంట్, మనకి తలకాయలో మెదడు ఎలాగో రొయ్యలో లివర్ ఎలాగో. ఎందుకంటే మేజర్ గా తీసుకున్న ఫుడ్ లో ఉన్నటువంటి ఇంగ్రీడియంట్స్ అక్కడే డైజెస్ట్ అవ్వాలి. ఆ డైజెస్ట్ అయిన మెటీరియల్ లో 70-80% అక్కడే స్టోరేజ్ అవుతుంది. అట్లాగే అక్కడ నుంచే మళ్ళీ ట్రాన్స్ఫర్ అవుతుంది. ఎనర్జీ కానీ లిపిడ్స్ కానీ ఇవన్నీ అక్కడ నుంచే ట్రాన్స్ఫర్ అవుతాయి. అట్లాగే రొయ్య యొక్క ఏంటి ఇమ్యూనిటీని అక్కడే బూస్టింగ్ అవుతుంది. మీకు మొత్తం ఫీడ్ లో ఉన్నటువంటి ఈ తీసుకున్న ఫీడ్ కానీ తీసుకున్న ప్లాంక్టన్ లో కానీ హెవీ మెటల్స్ కానీ మైక్రోటాక్సిన్స్ కానీ లేదంటే కెమికల్ టాక్సిన్స్ కానీ లేదా ఏదైనా గ్యాసెస్ టాక్సిన్స్ కానీ ఏదైనా సరే అది ఫీడ్ తో పాటు లోపలికి వెళ్ళిన తర్వాత అక్కడ వేస్టేజ్ ని బయటికి పంపించాలి. ఆ వేస్టేజ్ ని బయటికి పంపించినప్పుడు ఇప్పుడు హ్యూమన్ లో వేస్టేజ్ బయటకు వచ్చినప్పుడు యానస్ ద్వారా వచ్చినట్టుగా రొయ్యలో కూడా యానస్ ద్వారా వస్తుంది కదా ఏమనుకుంటే కాదు. మన బాడీలో ప్రతి దానికి ఒక పని చేయడానికి ఒక ఆర్గాన్ ఉన్నది. కానీ దీనికి రొయ్యలో మాత్రం ఎక్కువ పనులు చేసేది హెప్టో ప్యాంక్రేజ్. దాన్ని మనం శుభ్రంగా చూసుకుంటే, దాని మీద ఒత్తిడి పెట్టకుండా ఉంటే అది ఎన్నో పనులు సక్రమంగా చేసి పెడుతుంది. మనకు ఒకసారిగా హ్యాచరీ నుంచి వాటర్ నేచురల్ వాటర్కి వచ్చేసరికి ఆ హెప్టో ప్యాంక్రేజ్ మీద విపరీతమైన ఒత్తిడి పడిపోవడం, ఒత్తిడి పడిపోయేసరికి ఏదో ఇంజిన్ ఆయిల్ లేని బండి తోలినట్టుగా ఉంటుంది అనమాట. ఇంజిన్ ఆయిల్ లేకుండా బండి తోలేసుకున్నట్టుగా దాని మీద ఎక్కువ ప్రెజర్ ఉంటుంది. ఎక్కువ ప్రెజర్ ఉన్నప్పుడు అందుకే చాలా మంది ఇమ్యూనిటీని బూస్ట్ సి విటమిన్ పెట్టుకుంటారు, బ్యాచిలర్స్ ప్రొబయోటిక్ పెట్టుకుంటారు, డైజెషన్ బాగా అవడానికి లాక్టోబాసిల్లస్ కి వెళ్తారు, న్యూట్రిషనల్ సపోర్ట్ హై స్టాకింగ్ డెన్సిటీ కాబట్టి న్యూట్రిషనల్ సపోర్ట్ గా మినరల్స్ ఇచ్చుకుంటారు. ఇలా ఒక్కొక్కరు ఒక్కొక్క పేరు పెట్టుకుని ఈ ఐటమ్స్ ఇచ్చుకుంటా ఉంటారు. అది హై స్టాకింగ్ డెన్సిటీలో. జనరల్ గా లో స్టాకింగ్ డెన్సిటీకి వెళ్ళేసరికి ఇవన్నీ అవసరం లేదు. చాలా వరకు కెమికల్ యూసేజెస్ తగ్గించేసుకోవచ్చు. అట్లాగే మనకి ఇట్లా ఎప్పుడైతే అందరూ హై స్టాకింగ్ డెన్సిటీకి వెళ్ళి ఎక్కువ పెట్టుకుంటారో లీజులు పెరిగిపోయినాయి, కాస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ప్రొడక్షన్ పెరిగిపోయింది, అన్ని పెరిగిపోయింది. చివరికి వచ్చేసరికి కొన్ని ఏరియాల వరకు అన్ని 50-50 అయిపోయింది. వస్తే వస్తుంది లేదంటే లేదు. అందరూ కొత్త ఏరియాలకు వెళ్ళాలంటే అలా కొత్త ఏరియాలకు వెళ్దామంటే అక్కడ పర్చేసింగ్ ఉండదు. ఎవరు ఇందాక చెప్పినట్టు కొత్త ఏరియాలకు వెళ్తే కల్చర్ బాగా వస్తుంది, పర్చేసింగ్ ఉండదు. ఒక ట్రాన్స్ఫర్ ఫీడ్ పంపించాలంటే కొన్ని 100 kilometers పంపించాలి, సీడ్ పంపించాలంటే కొన్ని 100 kilometers, టెక్నీషియన్ వెళ్ళాలంటే కొన్ని 100 kilometers. మేము ఇటు ఒరిస్సా కానీ కర్ణాటక కానీ ఫీల్డ్ వర్క్ వెళ్ళినప్పుడు అక్కడ కూడా ఇదే పరిస్థితి. కల్చర్ చాలా బాగా వస్తుంది, కానీ వాటికి ఇదేంటి ఈ రవాణా వ్యవస్థ అనేసరికి ఉన్నా కానీ వాటికి తెచ్చుకోవడం చాలా ఎక్స్పెన్సివ్ అయిపోతుంది. అందరికి 100 count వరకు వాళ్ళకి హ్యాపీగా వచ్చేస్తున్నారు అన్ని ఏరియాల్లో కూడా. ఈ వైట్ ఫేకల్ మ్యాటర్ కానీ వాటర్ కలర్స్ కానీ కంట్రోల్ చేసుకోవడం, ఎన్ని కెమికల్స్ కొట్టినా ఎన్ని చేసినా సరే ఏదో అప్పటికప్పుడు తాత్కాలికంగా ఆ 2 రోజులు కవర్ అవుతుంది, మళ్ళీ 3వ రోజు కామన్ గా వచ్చేస్తుంది. మనం చేసుకోవాల్సింది ఏంటంటే కాస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ప్రొడక్షన్ తగ్గించుకోవడం, లేదనుకుంటే హెప్టో ప్యాంక్రేజ్ ని బలం చేసుకోవడం. హెప్టో ప్యాంక్రేజ్ మీద చాలా మార్కెట్ లో చాలా మెడిసిన్స్ వచ్చినాయి. ఏంటంటే హెప్టో ప్యాంక్రేజ్ వచ్చేసరికి అందరూ దాని మీద పెట్టకుండా హై స్టాకింగ్ డెన్సిటీ కదా, మేతల్లో ఏదో ఒకటి పెట్టేద్దాం, మేతలు వేసేద్దాం, కెమికల్ వేసేద్దాం, ఎక్కువ మనకి 2 months వచ్చేసరికి మనం క్రాప్ పట్టేసేయాలి. ఎందుకంటే 2 months వచ్చి ఆ తర్వాత ఉండదో గ్యారంటీ లేదు అన్న స్టేజ్ కి ఈ 2-3 months లో ఏంటంటే మొత్తం ఈ 2-3 స్టేట్ లో ఏంటంటే మనం ఎక్కువ రోజులు ఉండకూడదండి. 100 count వచ్చేసరికి 2 lakhs వేసేస్తాను, 100 count వచ్చేసరికి 2 months లో వచ్చేస్తుంది మాకు పట్టేస్తాను. ఆ తర్వాత వైట్ ఫేకల్ మ్యాటర్ కానీ వైట్ గట్లు కానీ లేదంటే ఈ గ్రోత్ వైట్ లివర్స్ కానీ లేదా హెప్టో ప్యాంక్రేజ్ డిసీజెస్ కానీ నెక్రోసిస్ అవి బాగా ఎక్కువగా ఉన్నాయి, విబ్రోస్ వైరస్. సో మేము ఆ బాధలు పడలేము. ఆ తర్వాత వీటి వల్ల వచ్చే రిజల్ట్ మేము తట్టుకోలేకపోతున్నాం, నెంబర్లు దొరకట్లేదు, ఎక్కువగా అయిపోతున్నాయి, వాళ్ళు వచ్చి అది చెప్తారు, వీళ్ళు వచ్చి ఇది చెప్తారు అని చెప్తున్నారు. సో ఓకే, అవన్నీ ఓకే, మనం కాస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ప్రొడక్షన్ తగ్గించుకోవడం ఒకటే ఉత్తమమైన మార్గం. ప్రతిదానికి మనం ఎక్కువ ఎక్స్పెన్సివ్ వెళ్ళిపోతున్నాం. ఈ రోజు ఈ మెడిసిన్ కొట్టాం, రేపొద్దున ఇంకొకరు వచ్చారు కాబట్టి రేపొద్దున నేను వెళ్ళి ఇంకో మెడిసిన్ చెప్తాను, అది కూడా కొట్టేస్తున్నారు రైతులు అవేర్నెస్ అనే కాదు, టెక్నికల్ గా కూడా మనం అందరూ కాంపిటేటివ్ మార్కెటింగ్ లో ఉన్నాం కాబట్టి తొందరగా ఇప్పుడు 40 count లో చెరువు ఉంది, నేను పట్టించలేదు ఎందుకంటే నా ఫీడ్ వెళ్దు, పట్టించేస్తే నా ఫీడ్ తీసాను, నేను అమ్ముకోలేను. అట్లాగా మార్కెటింగ్ పరంగా ఎన్నో ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఉన్నాయి. ఇట్లాగే ఇది మేము ఏంటి టెస్టింగ్ సైడ్ కూడా అంతే. ప్రతి దాంట్లోని అట్లాగే ఉంది. బిజినెస్ వచ్చేసరికి మేము ఏమీ చేయలేని పరిస్థితి అయిపోయింది. ఏదైనా చెప్దామంటే రైతులకి ఒక రైతు మనం చెప్పింది ఇంకో రైతు మనం ఇంకో అతను వచ్చి ఇంకోటి చెప్తారు. దీంట్లో ఏంటంటే అందరూ ఒక వేలో ఒక పద్ధతిగా ఒక చోట లేరు. ఎవరి దారి వాళ్ళది, ఎవరి ప్రిస్క్రిప్షన్ వాళ్ళది, ఎవరి ట్రీట్మెంట్లు వాళ్ళది. ఆయన చెప్పినా ఇంకొక ఆయన చెప్పినా ట్రీట్మెంట్లు అంటే వేరుగా ఉంటాయి కానీ రిజల్ట్ ఒకటే ఉంటది. కానీ రైతులు అట్లా అనుకోరు. సరేలే ఆయన చెప్పారు కదా, అది ఫాలో అయితే పోనీ సెట్ అయిపోద్ది అనుకోరు. మళ్ళీ నెక్స్ట్ వచ్చిన ఆయనకి ఎవరి మాటలు అయితే ఆయనకి నమ్మకం ఉంటే దాన్నే ఫాలో అవుతున్నారు. అట్లా అయితే అందరూ రోజు 10 మంది వెళ్తారు, 10 మంది మాటలు నమ్మకంగానే ఉంటాయి. అట్లాగే వాడి ఎక్కువ కెమికల్ యూసేజెస్ ఎక్కువైపోయినాయి, పెస్టిసైడ్స్ ఎక్కువైపోయినాయి. ఓన్లీ ఆ పెస్టిసైడ్స్ ఎక్కువ వాడటం వల్లనే మనకి ఈ రోజుని ఇట్లాగా రెసిస్టెన్స్ పవర్ తగ్గిపోవడం, ఈ ఎక్కువ ఇమ్యూనిటీ పెరిగిపోయింది వాటికి కూడా. ఏది పారాసైట్స్ కూడా ఇమ్యూనిటీ పెరిగిపోయింది. ఒక పంట నాకు తగ్గట్లేదు. ఒకప్పటిలాగా ఇప్పుడు ట్రీట్మెంట్లకి తొందరగా రికవర్ అవ్వట్లేదు, ఏడిపిస్తున్నాయి. ఏదో 1 వీక్ బాగానే ఉంటుంది, మళ్ళీ నెక్స్ట్ వీక్ మళ్ళీ మొదలు పెడుతున్నాయి. సో నేను చెప్పేది ఏంటంటే ఈ కాస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ప్రొడక్షన్ తగ్గించుకోవడం, పెప్టో ప్యాంక్రాజ్ మీద పూర్తిగా మనం కాన్సన్ట్రేషన్ చేసుకుంటే కల్చర్ చాలా హ్యాపీగా వచ్చేస్తుంది. పెప్టో ప్యాంక్రాజ్ ని మనం శుభ్రంగా బండిలో ఇంజిన్ ఆయిల్ టైంకి పోసుకున్నట్టే పెప్టో ప్యాంక్రాజ్ కి దాని పని అది చేసుకునేలాగా ఒత్తిడి లేకుండా చేసుకుంటే మనం ఎన్నో రకాల ఉపయోగాలు ఉంటాయి. పెప్టో ప్యాంక్రాజ్ లో మహా అయితే 4 సెల్స్ ఉంటాయి. ఎంటర్ సెల్స్ ఒకటి, ఈ సెల్స్ నుంచి మిగతా 3 సెల్స్ ఉంటాయి. బి సెల్స్, ఆర్ సెల్స్, ఎఫ్ సెల్స్. ఆర్ సెల్స్ అంటే రిజర్వ్ సెల్స్. దాంట్లో మొత్తం అన్ని అది గొట్టాల కింద మొత్తం లివర్ అంతా కూడా ఆక్యుపై చేసి ఉంటాయి. దాంట్లో ఏంటంటే ఈ న్యూట్రన్స్ నిల్వలన్నీ కూడా అక్కడే ఉంటాయి. కాల్షియం, ఫాస్ఫరస్, ఈ మెగ్నీషియం, ఈ పొటాషియం, ఈ మేజర్ 4 ఇంగ్రీడియంట్స్ కూడా ఆర్ సెల్స్ లోనే ఉంటాయి. ఈ ఆర్ సెల్స్ బాగా యాక్టివ్ గా ఉండి బాగా పనిచేస్తే కనుక ఇందులో ఉన్న కాల్షియము, ఫాస్ఫరస్, మెగ్నీషియము, పొటాషియము, ఇంకో రెండు మూడు రకాలు ఉన్నాయి. అవన్నీ కూడా ఐరన్. అట్లా కొన్ని ఎలిమెంట్స్ అన్ని కూడా ఈ రొయ్య మౌల్ట్ అయినప్పుడు దానికి ఉపయోగపడతాయి. ఇది ఆర్ సెల్స్ బాగా వర్క్ చేయడం వల్ల రొయ్య మౌల్ట్ అయిన తర్వాత పోస్ట్ మౌల్టింగ్ సిండ్రోమ్ అనేది ఉండదు. పోస్ట్ మౌల్టింగ్ అయిన తర్వాత తొందరగా గట్టిపడుద్ది, తొందరగా అది యాక్టివ్ గా ఉంటది. ఒకవేళ ఏదైనా క్యానబాలిజం కానీ ఏదైనా అదర్ పారాసైట్స్ ఉన్నప్పుడు తప్పించుకోవడానికి ఎక్కువ టైం తీసుకోదు. రొయ్య ముందుకి ఎంత స్పీడ్ గా ఎదగలదు, వెనక కూడా అంతే స్పీడ్ గా ఎదగలదు. కాబట్టి మనకి అది తప్పించుకోవడానికి ఎక్కువగా అవకాశాలు ఉంటాయి. అట్లా కాకుండా దీంట్లో ఈ ఆర్ సెల్స్ వీక్ గా ఉంటే అందులో కాల్షియం నిల్వలు కానీ, పొటాషియం నిల్వలు కానీ, లేదా ఫాస్ఫరస్ నిల్వలు కానీ, ఇట్లా మౌల్టింగ్ అయినప్పుడు ఎగ్జోస్కెలిటన్ ఫామ్ అవడానికి కావాల్సినటువంటి న్యూట్రన్స్ అన్ని కూడా దాంట్లో ఉంటాయి. ఎప్పుడైతే ఆర్ సెల్స్ వీక్ అయిపోయినాయో, ఆర్ సెల్స్ వీక్ అయిపోతే మౌల్ట్ అయిన తర్వాత 2 గంటల్లో గట్టిపడాల్సింది 10 గంటలు పట్టొచ్చు, 15 గంటలు పట్టొచ్చు, లేదా చెక్క లేపిన వెంటనే తొందరగా రింగ్ వేసి పోవచ్చు కూడా, చెప్పలేము. ఇది లేదా సాఫ్ట్ సెల్, ఇట్ లీడ్స్ టు సాఫ్ట్ సెల్, లేదంటే లూషాల్ కాదులే, సాఫ్ట్ సెల్. సో అట్లాగా మనకి అట్లాగే తర్వాత ఆర్ సెల్స్ అయిపోయింది. నెక్స్ట్ బి సెల్స్. ఉన్న సెల్స్ లో పెద్ద సెల్స్ అవే లివర్ సెల్స్ లో పెద్ద సెల్స్ అంటే అదే మొత్తానికి అన్నిటిని స్టోర్ చేసుకోవడం కానీ, లేదనుకుంటే ఎంజైమ్స్ రిలీజ్ చేయడం కానీ, ఏది అన్నమాట. ఇప్పుడు మీరు ఫీడ్ లో ప్రోటీన్ చాలా ఇంగ్రీడియంట్స్ ఉంటాయి ఫీడ్ లో. ఆ ఇంగ్రీడియంట్స్ అన్ని డైజెస్టివ్ అవ్వాలంటే ఒక్కొక్క దానికి ఒక్కొక్క రకమైనటువంటి ఎంజైమ్స్ రిలీజ్ చేసి ఫుడ్ శుభ్రంగా అరిగేలాగా చేస్తుంది. కానీ అది బి సెల్స్ బాగుంటేనే. ఈ లివర్ లో ఈ 3వ సెల్ బాగా కరెక్ట్గా పనిచేస్తే ఫుల్ గా తయారవుతుంది. సరే అయిపోయింది. 4వ సెల్ ఎఫ్ సెల్స్. ఆ ఎఫ్ సెల్స్ వచ్చేసరికి దాంట్లో అక్కడ ప్రోటీన్ కన్వర్సేషన్ బాగా జరుగుతుంది. అంటే బాడీ పెరగడానికి, బాగా బరువు పెరగడానికి, బాడీ తయారయ్యి సైజు పెరగడానికి, రొయ్య పెద్దగా అవ్వడానికి ఈ ఎఫ్ సెల్స్ బాగా ఉపయోగపడతాయి. ఈ ఎఫ్ సెల్స్ బాగుంటే, ఆరోగ్యంగా ఉంటేనే రొయ్య బాగా హెల్దీగా బరువు ఎక్కుతుంది. అంతేగాని మనం మిగతా 3 సెల్స్ ని పెట్టి బాడీలో ప్రోటీన్ ఫుడ్ పెట్టేసి మనం ఇంకేమీ పెట్టకుండా ఉంటే, ఏమీ ఇవ్వకుండా ఉంటే ఆటోమేటిక్ గా అది ఈ ఎఫ్ సెల్స్ వీక్ గా ఉన్నప్పుడు మీరు బాడీలో ఎంత మేతలో ఎన్ని పెట్టినా సరే, ఏం చేసినా సరే బాడీకి అది ఫీడ్ కన్వర్షన్ అవ్వదు, ప్రోటీన్ కన్వర్షన్ జరగదు. ప్రోటీన్ కన్వర్షన్ జరగకుండా ఆటోమేటిక్ ఇంకా అక్కడే వచ్చిన ప్రోటీన్ వచ్చినట్టుగా డైజెస్ట్ అయినట్టు మనకు అనిపిస్తుంది. ఆ బ్లాక్ మెటీరియల్ బయటకు వచ్చేస్తుంది. దానివల్ల మళ్ళీ వాటర్ పొల్యూషన్, మళ్ళీ వాటర్ లో అది వచ్చిన తర్వాత ప్రోటీన్ కదా, అమైనో యాసిడ్స్ అంటే NH బాండ్స్ అంటే ఆటోమేటిక్ గా టోటల్ అమోనియా పెరుగుతుంది, NO2 పెరుగుతుంది, NO3 పెరుగుతుంది. అక్కడ నైట్రిజేషన్ జరుగుతుంది, మళ్ళీ డియాక్సిడేషన్ జరుగుతుంది. దానివల్ల చెరువులో డిఓ లెవెల్స్ నైట్ టైం సడన్ గా డిఓ లెవెల్స్ తగ్గడం వల్ల బాడీలో డిఓ లెవెల్స్ బదులు ఈ నైట్రేట్స్ కూడా బాడీలోకి వెళ్ళి గిల్ ఫిలమెంట్ల ద్వారా బాడీలో ఉన్నటువంటి లివర్ లో ఉన్నటువంటి మెయిన్ సెల్స్, బి సెల్స్ ని, ఆర్ సెల్స్ ని డ్యామేజ్ చేస్తాయి. ఆటోమేటిక్ గా ఆర్ సెల్స్ డ్యామేజ్ అయినాయి అంటే మీకు ఇంకా రిజర్వ్ సెల్స్, బాడీ మేతలో ఉన్నటువంటి ఫుడ్ అందులో స్టోర్ అవ్వదు, ఆర్సెల్స్ లో స్టోర్ అవ్వదు. స్టోర్ అవ్వకపోతే ఈ మౌల్టింగ్ టైంలో రొయ్యి మ్యాథ్ తీసుకోదు. మ్యాథ్ తీసుకోకపోతే ఆ స్టోరేజ్ అయిన ఫీడ్ నే రొయ్యి తీసుకుంటది. రొయ్యి తీసుకున్నప్పుడు ఆటోమేటిక్ గా అప్పుడు ఆ మేత దానికి మేతలో ఉన్నటువంటి దాంట్లో స్టోరేజ్ ఉన్నటువంటి ఎనర్జీ లిపిడ్స్ రూపంలో ఉంటది. ఎనర్జీ ఆటోమేటిక్ గా బాడీ కన్వర్ట్ అయ్యి దానికి మౌల్టింగ్ అయిన తర్వాత గట్టి పట్టడానికి దాని లెవర్ లో ఉన్న ఆ స్పేర్ పార్ట్లనే వాడుకుంటది. మేత ద్వారా కాదు, ప్లాంక్టన్ ద్వారా కాదు, మౌల్ట్ అయిన 1 అవర్ 2 అవర్స్ కూడా. అయితే ఇప్పుడు మనం ఎప్పుడైతే లెవర్ ని దృష్టిలో పెట్టకుండా మౌల్టింగ్ ఈడిటిఎల్ కొట్టి, జీలెట్లు కొట్టి, దానికి మౌల్టింగ్ అవ్వడానికి శానిటైజర్ కొట్టేసి ఏది కొట్టినా మౌల్ట్ అవుతుంది అనుకోండి. ఆ మౌల్టింగ్ అవ్వడానికి ఒక్కొక్కరు ఒక్కొక్క పద్ధతి ఫాలో అవుతుంటారు. వాటర్ ఎక్స్చేంజ్ చేస్తారు, ఇట్లా అన్ని చేస్తారు. కొంతమంది ఏంటంటే ఈ మధ్యలో కొంచెం సైంటిఫిక్ గా వచ్చిన ఏంటంటే మౌల్టింగ్ 2 days ముందు మేతల్లో ఇవి పెట్టండి ఫ్రీగా మౌల్ట్ అవుతున్నారు. ఆ కాన్సెప్ట్ ఈ కాన్సెప్ట్ దాన్ని వేస్ట్ చేసుకునే ఈ చైనా కంపెనీ వాళ్ళు ఇది తీసుకొచ్చారు, బైల్ యాసిడ్ తీసుకొచ్చారు. ఆ బైల్ యాసిడ్ లో ఉన్న ఆ మెడిసిన్స్ కూడా, బైల్ యాసిడ్ లో ఉన్న లిపిడ్స్ ఎండ్ స్టేజ్ లో ఉన్న లిపిడ్స్ అనమాట. అవి ఈజీ డైజెస్టబుల్, ఈజీ డీటాక్సిబుల్. అంటే వీళ్ళు తీసుకొచ్చిన మెడిసిన్ ఏంటంటే, అంటే వాళ్ళు తీసుకొచ్చిన అంటే లివర్ కి సంబంధించినటువంటి మనం అన్ని రకాలు, అంటే లివర్ ఫ్రీగా పనిచేసినంత సేపు దానిపైన అది చేసుకుంటూ వెళ్తుంది. ఎప్పుడైతే మనం దాంట్లో ఒక పార్ట్ వీక్ గా ఉన్నప్పుడు దాన్ని వదిలేసి మనం మిగతా పార్ట్ల మీదకి మిగతా వాటికి వెళ్ళాము, అప్పుడు మీరు మేతలు తినేస్తున్నా, మేతలు తినట్లేదు అంటే తినడానికి చాలా ఉన్నాయి మార్కెట్ లో. సో మెనీ ప్రొడక్ట్స్ ఉన్నాయి మార్కెట్ లో. అన్ని మేతలు తినడానికి. ఏది కాదు, దేని తప్పని చెప్పగలం, ఇది కరెక్ట్ కాదని చెప్పడానికి లేదు. ఎందుకంటే ఒక పాట బయటకు వచ్చిందంటే ఏమి సాధారణంగా బయటకు రాదు. దాని వెనకాల ఎంతమంది టాలెంటెడ్ పీపుల్ వల్లనే దాన్ని ఎంత సో మెనీ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ ఎన్నో అంచనాలు వేసుకున్న తర్వాత వాళ్ళు ఒక ప్రోడక్ట్ తీసుకొస్తారు. సో దాన్ని మార్కెట్ చేసుకుంటారు. మార్కెట్ చేసిన తర్వాత ఆ ప్రొడక్ట్స్ వాడతారు. కానీ ఈ మనం చెరువు దగ్గర ఐడెంటిఫై చేసుకోవడానికి ఈ సెల్స్ ని మనం సరిగ్గా ఐడెంటిఫై చేయలేం. కానీ ఈ లివర్ మీద కొంచెం అవగాహన మనం కనిపించుకుని ఉంటే మాత్రం హెప్టోపాంక్రేజ్ మీద హెప్టోపాంక్రేజ్ మీద మనం ఎక్కువగా అవగాహన కల్పించుకుంటే ఏ ప్రాబ్లం ఏంటనేది రొయ్యని చూసి కూడా మనం చెరువు దగ్గర నట్టింగ్కి వెళ్ళిన తర్వాత అక్కడ కూడా చూసి చెప్పొచ్చు. అంత ప్రాబ్లం అంతా రొయ్య హెప్టోపాంక్రేజ్ లో ఉంది. తోకలు చూడాల్సిన పని లేదు, కళ్ళు ముక్కు చూడాల్సిన పని లేదు. ఓన్లీ ఒక హెప్టోపాంక్రేజ్ బేస్ చేసుకుని మిగతావన్నీ కూడా చెప్పొచ్చు. రొయ్య బాడీలో ఏం జరిగింది ఏంటనేది. రొయ్య బాడీలో మొత్తం అంతా కూడా హైండ్ గట్టు, మిడ్ గట్టు ఈ రెండే కాబట్టి ఈ గట్టు లివర్ ఫంక్షన్ దెబ్బతిన్నా సరే, ఆ తర్వాత వచ్చే హైండ్ గట్టు వెనకాల ఉన్న మేత గట్టు దెబ్బతిన్నా సరే, దానికి ఏది తిన్నా సరే దానికి కాంప్లికేటెడ్. రొయ్యకి ఈ దేని వల్ల కాంప్లికేట్ అవుతుంది, మనం మేతల్లో ఉండొచ్చు కొన్ని టాక్సిన్స్, లేదా తీసుకున్న మేతల్లో ఈ హానికరమైన ప్లాంక్టన్ డైజెషన్ అయ్యేటప్పుడు అది కొన్ని రిలీజ్ చేసే మైకోటాక్సిన్స్ వల్ల కూడా లివర్ సెల్స్ డ్యామేజ్ అవ్వచ్చు. మనం అట్లాగా లేదనుకుంటే మన పెస్టిసైడ్స్ ఎక్కువగా వాడటం వల్ల వాటిని తీసుకున్న కొన్ని ఎకైనోడర్మేటా వర్గానికి చెందిన జీవులు కానీ సాయిల్ యానిమల్స్, సాయిల్ ఫ్లోరా ఉంటది కొన్ని యానిమల్స్, వాటిని తీసుకోవడం ద్వారా రొయ్యి తీసుకోవడం ద్వారా కానీ, లేదా వాటిని తీసుకునే యానిమల్స్ రొయ్యలు తీసుకోవడం ద్వారా కానీ దాని యొక్క లివర్ ఫంక్షన్ అనేది కొంచెం ఒక్కొక్కసారి వాటర్ లో ఉన్న స్ట్రెస్ వల్ల, అంటే లో డివో లెవెల్స్, హై అమోనియా లెవెల్స్ వల్ల కొంచెం రొయ్య మీద స్ట్రెస్ ఉంటది. ఆ స్ట్రెస్ ఉన్నప్పుడు ఇటువంటి సెన్సిటివ్ మ్యాటర్స్ ని అది ఎక్కువ ఏదంటే రెస్పాండ్ అవుతుంది. మామూలుగా అయితే దానికి రెస్పాండ్ అవ్వదు, ఎందుకంటే చెరువులో అమోనియాలు ఉన్న పెద్ద స్పీడ్ గా రెస్పాండ్ అయిపోదు. కానీ
సార్ కొద్దిగా టైం లేదు, కంక్లూడ్ చేస్తావా మెయిన్ పాయింట్స్ చెప్పి?
చేస్తాను. సరే, ఓకే. అట్లాగా మనం ఎప్పుడైతే మనం లివర్ ని బాగా చూసుకున్నామో, హెప్టోపాంక్రేజ్ ని బాగా చూసుకున్నామో, దాని పని చేసుకుంటూ వెళ్ళిపోతుంది. మనం బయట నుంచి రొయ్యకి ఏమి కొత్తగా ఏం చెప్పాల్సిన పని లేదు. దానికి మౌల్టింగ్ అవ్వడం తెలుసు, డైజెషన్ అవ్వడం తెలుసు, డైజెషన్ చేయించుకోవడం తెలుసు, అన్ని తెలుసు. కాకపోతే మనం దాని మీద ఆర్టిఫిషియల్ ప్రొడక్ట్స్ ఎక్కువగా వాడటం వల్ల మనకి ఎక్కువగా ఇది స్ట్రెస్ ప్రెజర్ ఫీల్ అవుతుంది. దానివల్ల ఈ కాంప్లికేషన్స్ అన్ని ఎక్కువగా ఉంటున్నాయి. సో నేను చెప్పేది ఏంటంటే, దీనికి సంబంధించినటువంటి వీళ్ళు ఈ చైనా మేకింగ్ వాళ్ళు అనేది నాకు ఈ అవకాశం ఇచ్చారు కాబట్టి ఒక 1 minute వీళ్ళ గురించి చెప్పేస్తాను. వీళ్ళు ఈ బైల్ యాసిడ్ అనేది తీసుకొచ్చారు, చాలా ఎక్కువ కాన్సన్ట్రేషన్ తో తీసుకొచ్చారు. ఇప్పటివరకు చాలా మంది ఇండియా తీసుకొచ్చినా చాలా తక్కువ కాన్సన్ట్రేషన్ ఇచ్చారు, వీళ్ళు ఎక్కువ కాన్సన్ట్రేషన్ ఇచ్చారు. కాకపోతే నా మనం ఏంటంటే అది అంత కాస్ట్ కాకుండా కొంచెం కాస్ట్ డిక్రీజ్ చేయండి, ఎక్కువ మంది రైతులకి అందజేసుకుంటే కనుక దాని బెనిఫిట్స్ వెంబటే చూడలేరు. ఎక్కువ మంది తెలియాలంటే చాలా ఎక్కువ టైం పడుతుంది. మీరు అంతంత కాస్ట్ ఎక్కువ ఎక్స్పెన్సివ్ పెట్టుకుంటే చూడలేము. ఎందుకంటే దాంట్లో ఉన్న ఇంగ్రీడియంట్స్ వల్ల ఈ బాడీలో డైజెషన్ అనేది చాలా ఫ్రీగా అవడమే కాకుండా, ఈ మేతల్లో కానీ హానికరమైన ప్లాంక్టన్ తీసుకున్నప్పుడు వచ్చే ఈ టాక్సిన్స్ ని కూడా అది డైల్యూట్ చేసి ఈజీగా బయటికి పంపిస్తుంది. దానివల్ల రొయ్య మీద ఎటువంటి ఒత్తిడి లేకుండా ఎంతో డైజెస్టివ్ సిస్టమ్ అనేది చాలా ఫ్రీ అవుతుంది, ఈజీగా ఉంటుంది, ఎక్కువ మోర్ బెనిఫిట్స్ ఉంటున్నాయి, ఎక్కువ గ్రోత్ వస్తుంది. యాక్చువల్గా ఫీడ్స్ ఫ్రీగా తీసుకుంటే డైజెషన్ బాగుంటుంది, ఫీడ్ బాగా తీసుకుంటే గ్రోత్ రాదు. ఫీడ్ బాగా డైజెషన్ అయ్యి డైజెషన్ లో ఉన్నట్టు డైజెషన్ అయిన తర్వాత వాటిలో ఉన్న ఇంగ్రీడియంట్స్ రొయ్యి కన్వర్ట్ చేసుకుంటేనే రొయ్యికి ఉపయోగం ఉంటుంది. సో అటువంటివి జరగాలంటే ఈ బైల్ యాసిడ్ లో ఉన్న ఈ లిపిడ్స్ అంటే ఎనర్జీ, రొయ్యికి వచ్చే ఎనర్జీ, అట్లా మనకి ఎక్కువగా మనం అది అప్లై చేయటం వల్ల లివర్ సెల్స్ అయ్యి బాగా యాక్టివేట్ అయ్యి మనకి మరింత ఆరోగ్యంగా పనిచేసే లివర్ సెల్స్ దేని పని అది చేసుకుంటుంది. ఆర్ సెల్స్ బాగా పనిచేయటం వల్ల మనకి మౌల్టింగ్ తొందరగా గట్టిపడటం ఇట్లాంటివి అనమాట. ఇందాక చెప్పాను కదా, అందుకని క్లోజ్ చేయమన్నారు కాబట్టి క్లోజ్ చేస్తున్నాను. నేను చెప్పేది ఏంటంటే ఈ బైల్ యాసిడ్ అనేది చాలా నెంబర్ 1 ప్రోడక్ట్ ఇండియాలో తీసుకొచ్చారు. డైరెక్ట్ లివర్ సెల్స్ తీస్తుంది కాబట్టి ఇది నేచురల్ ప్రోడక్ట్ కాబట్టి మీరు దాన్ని కాస్ట్ తగ్గించి ప్రజలకు అందజేయండి, అది కస్టమర్లందరికీ అందజేయండి, చాలా హ్యాపీగా ఉంటుంది. అంతంత కాస్ట్ పెడితే మార్కెట్ లో ఎక్కువ కాస్ట్ ఉన్న కంపెనీలు ఎన్నో ఎగిరిపోయినాయి, అమ్మినంత కాలమే ఉంటది, తర్వాత ఉండదు. ఇటువంటి మంచి ప్రోడక్ట్స్ తీసుకురండి. లివర్ ని కాపాడే మెడిసిన్స్ అన్ని కూడా, ఎందుకంటే రొయ్యకి వచ్చేసరికి రొయ్య అనేసరికి లివర్ గురించే మారాలి, లివర్ అనేసరికి బైల్ యాసిడ్ గురించే మారేలాగా చేయండి, రేట్ తగ్గించి. ఓకే, థ్యాంక్ యూ అండి అందరికి.
హలో సార్, సందీప్ అండి ఇక్కడ. హలో
Hello.
హలో
Hello, Mr. President. You have finished, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your speech. And you can see this is the Renew 2 feedback from India customers. And we got many good feedback about using Renew 2. So if you have any questions and problems with shrimp farming or our product Renew 2, you can leave your WhatsApp number and or scan the QR and add my WhatsApp. And this video also will be uploaded to the Lachance Aquaculture Nutrition, this YouTube channel. And you can subscribe our YouTube channel and we will show more information about shrimp farming to you. Okay, any other questions about shrimp farming or our product?
I just want to say thank you to the Prasad for explaining in the layman words so that everyone in the call able to understand in the local language. I'm hearing from you, Prasad, definitely this product is helping shrimp for the digestion and growing shrimp very healthy manner. Thank you again, once again, making this product as a number 1.
Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah.
Hello.
This is Sandeep from Andhra Pradesh.
Sorry.
Hello. Is there
Hello.
anyone?
Yeah, we can understand English.
This is Sandeep from Andhra Pradesh, from India. Actually, I'm very pleased to hear some few lectures from that Prasad and Madhu also.
Madhu. Yeah, Mr. Madhu.
Also from
Mr. Madhu
India.
and Prasad also. Very good lectures of both of them. And basically, from Prasad is that good lecture in the Telugu. We can understand the very easily. And as well as at present the situation in Andhra Pradesh, it is that in Andhra Pradesh most of that culture is happening in Andhra Pradesh about in India. Actually, here we are facing the white fecal matter at the stage of 40 days and 30 days also.
I know you mentioned many disease, shrimp farming disease in India, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, how to say? Do you want to explain from Mr. Madhu?
No. I'm about to say what is the problems in Andhra Pradesh. Actually, what is that Prasad has been said, that same thing is happening in the Andhra Pradesh, because the Prasad has been said that white fecal matter is the major problem in Andhra Pradesh.
Okay, Bangladesh. You say?
Where are you from?
I am from India, state from Andhra Pradesh.
Which state? Which state?
Andhra Pradesh.
He's from the same.
Okay.
He's from the same state where Prasad just lectured, right? In the local language. He's from the same state.
Oh, same state.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Actually, we are facing that lot of issues, a lot of problem while during the culture is the white fecal matter. Yes.
Okay, can you type the message in the message box, or you can add my WhatsApp and we can
Is there
type.
another one who can explain, who can understand my Telugu and he can convert into the English? Is there anyone here?
Yes. No, he just, I mean, I understand. He want to highlight his problems with the white fecal matter. He just want to highlight that problem over here so that you guys can provide some solution for that. That's what he's trying to explain.
Which disease, please? White feces?
Yes.
White feces. I know. Okay. Maybe you can leave us. We have solutions for white feces, but you know, in China and in India, different environment.
Versions.
So I'm not sure if our solution is workable in India, but you can try.
Yeah, why don't we try that? Like, just to see how it works.
But you know, shrimp is a very small animal, so they cannot bear the disease. So if they already catch the disease, it is very hard to treat. So maybe probably if you can detect earlier and give good immunity for the shrimp and make they have the strong body and to make prevention better, then if they catch the white feces, the stress will give shrimp a big trouble. So although we can give you a solution, but they need to have a long time to relieve from the disease, and they will also grow slow. Maybe the solution can help you to make the shrimp cell, but how to say, it cannot recover for the previous. Yeah.
Now, how we can prevent this? How we can provide that immunity for the shrimp before itself?
This is a very complex question. I think maybe from water, from how to say, from the management and from some shrimp seed. You may so many factors. Maybe this I think Mr. Madhu can explain in white feces. In white feces, I cannot explain in details.
Got it.
Anyway, we can also communicate with Mr. Madhu for these problems. But you know, white feces. White feces is a worldwide problems, not only in India, in some Southeast countries like Thailand and also like Indonesia, the white feces is also very common, also Vietnam. So we are also trying to give some solutions. But I think if you can use our neutral bile acids for shrimp stocking from DOC1, the white feces will be, it will have some effect on shrimp white feces. You can try. Also, we have to give you some other solutions together with our product.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Like if you can provide those solutions.
Okay. We will. Please leave me your WhatsApp in the inbox, or you already in our WhatsApp group.
Okay, ma'am. Actually, the thing is that previously I have contacted the Sham Kumar also, the same person who is engaged to me right now. Whatever the prices of the bile acid.
The price we have a dealer in your country. They sell it locally for nearly 2 years. I will ask him to quote your price in your local currency.
Yes, of course, ma'am. Actually, the thing is that whatever the prices of that bile acid is that a very high price at present when we are going to the into the culture. Depending upon the
Please,
other.
please do not worry because the dosage is very low. It is just 2 to 3 kilograms per ton feed, mixed into feed to feed the shrimp. So price, because I think it is better our dealer quote you. If
Thank
you
you,
want
ma'am.
this product, yeah, you can scan the code in our screen, or you can leave me your WhatsApp. After the meeting, we will contact each customer because some customer want the PowerPoint and some customer want maybe Mr. Madhu's explanation, and some customer want product information. We will each customer we will contact and give them information.
Okay,
Okay.
ma'am. We will reach out to Shyam Kumar for finding the price, and it looks like this is an excellent product. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your trust.
Thank you to everyone.
Thank you. And this is our.
Hello. Hello. Am I audible?
Hello.
Yes, you are audible.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation, sir. Your focus was on hepatopancreas, I said. Actually, I am a research scholar from a university here at Andhra Pradesh. So actually, I am working on EHP and WSSV and all stuff also. Just I wanted to know that how can we while looking in, especially while looking in check tray or while sampling, how can we say that the hepatopancreas is healthy? Can I know any symptoms or any idea? Can you please share it to me? అంటే నేను చెప్పింది ఏంటంటే సార్, హిపాటోపాంక్రియాస్ కి మన శాంప్లింగ్ టైంలో కానీ చెక్ ట్రేలో కానీ చూసేటప్పటికి మనకి అది హెల్దీగా కొంచెం బాగోలేదా, అది మనం ఎలాగ మనం కన్వే చేయగలం ఫార్మర్ కి, అది ఒక్కసారి నాకు కొంచెం చెప్పగలరా సార్?
Yes, here I will take an opportunity to explain to your question, sir. My name is Sunil Bandrede, working in CP Aquaculture India Private Limited.
Yes, sir.
Actually, the color of the hepatopancreas will tell you the indications. It should be
color,
brown.
sir.
Yes. It should be brown or black in a normal condition. If the
Okay.
color is pale or some other color, reddish or white or some abnormal colors or there, means you can choose that animal for your observation.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Actually, this question may sound to be very simple or a very thing, but actually I am working on a different subjects and on and bioinformatics and all. So actually I wanted
Just
to
by
know
experience,
this.
you'll get it
So,
1 or 2 times. If you choose by color, definitely you will find it out.
okay, sir. Means healthy. It is healthy means blue or black or brown. That's all.
Black or brown is the healthy and normal condition.
Okay.
If it is green, yellow, light pale color, white color, reddish color, some other colors are there, means definitely you can choose that animal for your observation.
Okay. Thank you very much.
好了，就结束。跟他说一声吧，就是太晚了这边，明白。
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks for your time. And you can subscribe our YouTube channel and add my WhatsApp, and I will invite you into our WhatsApp group. And any problems with shrimp farming and products, you can leave the message in the WhatsApp group. And that's all for today's webinar, and we will show more information in the WhatsApp group. You can add this.
Yeah, thanks.
I just want to say thank you, Cham and the team for organizing this call. And it is a very eye-opening for all of us and also informative to all of us. Your services are very helpful. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We will have the meeting maybe next month. Thank you.
Thank you, everything for better shrimp farming.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Madhu. Thanks, staff.
Thank you.
Thanks, all customers. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mr.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye. 拍了之后就停止那个了是吧？